Just check your microphones real quick. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:00 p.m. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Ready? Okay. Roll call. Keith DeYoung,
Here.
Rain Stratton. Here. Peltonen here, Carl Roble,
Here.
Al Keaton,
Here.
Mike Jacobson,
Here.
Randy Milnick,
Here.
and I don't need to invite Miss Hild. Do I? I don't take her in roll call. She's
No.
Okay. Put your hand, and we're very glad.
Yes. Okay, is there any adjustments or things we want to change on the meeting agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Yeah, you can use your last names when you make motions. That helps me a lot. Thank you.
Jacobson.
Thank you very much. And in the roll call votes, thanks.
You asking for a roll call vote?
In the roll call votes too, if you could call it by last name, that.
Okay. Want to do a roll call? Roll call.
Do we need one for that?
What?
What?
Don't we?
Roll call.
Oh, we don't need it?
Not that for this.
Don't need-
All right.
You need a vote.
No, we don't
No.
need to vote to
No.
approve the minutes. We can do just
Oh, the agenda.
Agenda.
with the agenda.
So all in favor of the agenda?
All
As it
right.
stands?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Approval of minutes of previous meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, declaration of conflict of interest. Do you have any conflict of interest on that agenda today? No?
No.
None noted. Approval of last month's meeting.
Minutes you need,
Yes.
up here in the beginning. Like the second line, the last sentence in it. It says, Mr. Jacobson will continue to contribute to the master plan through its adoption. I think the intention was that I would continue to contribute to the planning commission, through which time the master plan is done. Not just the master.
Right.
Other than that, that's all I see.
Tribute to the planning commission through the which time the master plan.
Until which time the master plan is complete. Adopted, maybe adopted.
Yeah.
Better word.
Anything else? Okay. Your motion to approve the minutes with the correction made?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment made.
Motion by Jacobson, second.
I'd second it.
Keaton accept it, seconds it. This all in favor or all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right. We're gonna move on to public comment. And Zoom. Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the PC. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules and procedures. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from the lectern or use a raise hand feature in Zoom. and state his or her name and address. Person may address the PC on matters that are relevant to the township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's question. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. We have anybody in the house for public comment? Step up to the lectern, please.
Hi, I'm Michelle Pescatello. My address is 11465 East M72 in Williamsburg. I wanted to bring to your attention, I don't know if this is the proper place, but my daughter has a bus stop on the north side of M72 that is heading westbound into Grand Traverse County from Kalkaska. There are countless bus passers almost weekly. Most of them are heading into Kalkaska. I'm sorry. Back in 2017, and again on January 18th of this year, I have had to witness my oldest and my youngest daughter jump out of the way of a car that passes in between my vehicle and the bus entrance door on the right-hand shoulder. It is a dangerous, dangerous area. The car on January 18th passed 5 stopped vehicles behind the bus. You can't get that idea, that sight out of your head when it's your child. I just need you to understand that that is a hill crest on the north side of the road and a curve on the south side of the road. The bus is not catching these drivers with their cameras. I'm asking if there can be something that can be done in this township to help. Cameras up on the side that catch both. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this, but I cannot see another one of my child have to jump out of the way of a vehicle at her bus stop. It is horrific. And I'm not expecting an answer right now. I really am not, because I don't know the answer either. I'm working with the Grand Traverse County traffic sheriff. He caught one. He's been at my driveway twice since then. The first time, nothing. The second time he caught a driver. I saw one today on the south side of the road going into Kalkaska. It's almost daily. And I almost don't care about the ones going into Kalkaska because it's no real danger to my child. But when a car passes in between my kid and the bus door, who does that? I don't know. But I know it's traumatizing for me and for my family. And I just am bringing this to your attention. I'm going to come to the board and bring it to their attention as well. But I need help. We need help on this road. It's not just me. There's kids that get off there. Like, it's just dangerous. And I just am asking for some help from Whitewater Township to come up with some type of solution.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch. You said 72 westbound. What was the nearest crossroad?
Bags. And I'm at Hilltop Lane. It's a private drive. It's the very first street right after Bags into Grand Traverse County. Then there's Queen Anne's Lace, and then there's Skeegamog Point.
So be east of Bags.
It is west of Bags.
West of-
Correct.
East of Hilltop.
My Hilltop is my road.
Okay.
I had a question. Are you between Skeegamog and Bags?
Yes,
It's that hill there?
correct. Correct.
Yeah.
It is, the bus does turn their lights, their flasher
Mhm.
yellows on as soon as they crest that hill.
Mhm.
So there is warning from the other side. It's not the bus driver's fault.
No.
It's really these drivers, and
You're saying the cars are passing between your car and the bus?
in the bus,
Move your car over closer to the bus.
as I
Or they're
could,
gonna hit your car and hit the
right?
kid.
But then if we tumble, my kid's still there. I mean, right, I can do that. I got no problems with
That's
whatever.
The number one thing, my God, if you, that makes total sense, and not to be so close, they cannot do that.
But can I ask why I have to modify myself for failures of law breakers that are driving? That's, you know, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just saying it's kind of cool, not cool,
Carl,
right?
we're
I
gonna-
agree,
Carl?
except.
Carl, we're gonna leave that to law enforcement. We're not
Yeah,
gonna
I know.
tell
This
people
is-
to
I
put their
agree.
car in front of the danger or anything like
Agree,
that.
But boy, I'm gonna protect my kid.
I get it,
Right.
but
Period.
And
trust me.
That's up to her and I think you.
I'd like
you're
to
on the
put
right
some,
track by-
just giant pillars in between, you know, on the shoulder, but that's dangerous too,
uh,
you know,
Definitely talk to the sheriff's department about that.
100%.
Pam, our sympathies are with you.
Yes.
It sounds to me like you are already taking the correct steps. Law enforcement is the very first one.
Yep,
We're sitting here listening to your story, in my mind was taking this also to the board and you're talking about doing that.
correct,
So I believe you are on the right track.
correct.
Know that all of our sympathies are with you.
I appreciate that. I just
Yeah.
thought it was important that you guys know what's going on in our township.
Myself, I didn't know that, but
Right,
there's a lot of new stuff that's happening in our township that hasn't happened
sure.
before that I have.
And I'm here to help.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience? No? No hands on Zoom?
No hands and Zoom.
Okay, we're gonna be moving on. Close public comment at 7:11. Also at 7:11, we're gonna open the public hearing. Just those that are attending to please sign in the attendance sheet. The date of this public hearing notice was on 1/19/2025, and it was published in the Traverse City Record Eagle. Yes,
To actually open public.
okay.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing
Jacobson.
at 7:12.
Well,
I second Stratton.
that'd be a roll call vote.
Yes,
Wouldn't
okay.
think so.
Yes, okay. Keaton,
Yes.
Stratton. Yes. Jacobson,
Yes.
Royball,
Yes.
Peltonen, yes. Milnick,
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes. The Whitewater Township Planning Commission is holding a public hearing. Consider the adoption of an update to the Township Master Plan consistent with the provisions of the Michigan Planning Enabling Act of 33 of 2008 as amended. A copy of the draft master plan was available on the township website. Randy, you want a brief presentation on it?
Sure, just a couple moments here. I guess I want to also mention that the ad was in the Elk Rapids News as well. As a way of, you know, there's some question about what's the best place to advertise for not only this, but other zoning issues. And so it was published in both, just for the record. So the Planning Commission is well aware of the process that we've going through the last almost 2 years. It's hard to believe that the first draft of this came out in March of last year, of 2024, when it was first presented to the Planning Commission. Subsequently, then we went through a process of, initially notifying adjacent jurisdictions of the planning process, and then went through public workshops, of course, and all the steps. They're all outlined on page 14 of the master plan. There's almost a page of key milestones in this. So one of the last stages of the master plan process is to have a public hearing. The town board approved its distribution. I'll get to an issue about the town board's action perhaps later, but the question now is any public comment we get and any edits you want to make based on that public comment after tonight.
I have not received any written comments. Does anybody else? Deb? No?
Nope, I haven't received anything.
Okay, if we're all ready, we can start receiving public comment if there's any. You guys ready? Okay. Is there any public comment in the audience out there? Yes.
Kim.
You need name and address?
Yes.
Kim Mangus, 5101 Brown Bear Lane. It's good to see some mostly familiar faces. There were a couple things as I went through the master plan that I wanted to bring to your attention and just some quick notes. It is real easy to lose things between administrations on a planning commission. And one of the things that I noted that we had on our to-do list that did not make it into the master plan that I could find was addressing standards for oil and gas storage. They don't advertise a whole lot, but we do have some oil and gas storage areas. The Niagara Reef through here is ideal for the storage of natural gas. Neighboring townships have standards and most companies will abide by those. If you have them, we do not. We have been very protected by the explosion gas in the 70s that is noted in the master plan. So to a great extent, they've avoided our area. But there have been plans that have come out that would have included Whitewater Township. That's something that I would like to see the planning commission get in the master plan, get some basic standards for noise, sound, etc. They do have a tendency to step 3 feet over the property line into another township if one township has some standards and guidelines and the neighboring township does not. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. It just got missed from one group to another. Your map on page 27, the outline of the township is enlarged and it distorts the size and shape of the township. And that's, from what I can tell, the purpose of the map. So that should be just an outline that shows the map underneath or shrunk down to the actual size of the township because it's distorting the shape of the township. And I'd like to thank you for addressing ATVs and snowmobiles. That was also something we had on our to-do list that has never been done before. And Carl, I'm sure you had something to do with that one. I noticed on your resolution to adopt, you had a resolution to adopt the master plan. Unless the board has rescinded their authority to adopt, your resolution really needs to read resolution to forward to the board a recommendation that they adopt. You can only recommend previously, unless they've changed their standards. Our township board is reserved for themselves the right to up or down vote on a master plan. Aside from that, just real quick, I know there's a lot of criticism of the previous master plan. And I want to let you know that the lack of control in that plan was born out of some real abuses on behalf of the planning commission and previous boards, where that one was written to try to prevent those abuses. No master plan is good or bad. It is the implementation of any plan is really where it hits, the rubber hits the road. I want to encourage you to be careful as you implement this plan. You have a great plan. It covers a lot of bases, but be careful when you're implementing it. Ask yourself, does this really need to be regulated? Is it actually a problem? How will this affect the younger, the less educated, those that are maybe not as informed about what's going on? It is really easy for individuals who have more resources, more economic, mental resources, and education to make life a lot harder, especially on our young people. I mean, it is so hard for our young people to get a start on anything. So I would encourage you, look at things like allowing tiny homes, allowing other forms of housing, opening up things, as opposed to just locking the doors and saying, if you don't make 120 a year, you can't live here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Any comments on Zoom?
No, none that I see.
No. Would entertain a motion for closing the public hearing.
Make the motion to close the public hearing at 7:20.
I second
By
it.
Jacobson and seconded by Roble. Roll call.
Stratton. Yes. Jacobson,
Yes.
Roybal,
Yes.
Peltonen, here, yes. Milnick,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
and Keaton.
Yes.
All right, Randy has. Do you have any changes to that now that,
Well, there's a separate item here and we can get into it now if you like. The issue with the town board and their action, as I think it's described in later on in the agenda, is the fact that the resolution that the township board passed in 2008 predated the current Planning and Zoning Enabling Act by about 6 months. And so when they cited their action in 2008 for that master plan, they did so under a planning act that later became replaced by about 6 months. So we've talked to the township attorney about that, and the recommendation is we get a new resolution that is going to have the proper citation. I don't know what happened in 2015, but that should have been an issue then, but it's an issue now, so we have a new resolution. The bottom line is the planning commission needs to act by its resolution that's in your document. And then whether or not that's the final step or not is up to the township board, whether they want to continue to retain its authority or not. And as a board member, I don't know how the other board members feel about that. Some townships do have the township board be the final authority, others do not. I think East Bay did not, and I'm not sure about some of the other ones, but there's a list in the memo there about that. So that's an issue for the township board next week. But so the question is to the planning commission, are there any changes that you want to make to the master plan before adopting the resolution that's in your packet?
I didn't know anything about any of this gas storage stuff, and it looks pretty obvious that the gas operations are going to start back up. Is that something that we should at least ask a question or two about?
Those are really regulated by the state of Michigan, the DNR. When you go to put in a facility or make a well, they have a very strict of like when you set in your tanks, the liners that go underneath, the dirt that goes on it, how high the berm should, they give you a calculation. You have to calculate, I think it's 1.5 or 2%, like if it's a 400 barrel tank, it has to hold 1,000 barrels, let's say. So they are very, very strict. So if we thought we was going to get, I don't think you could get any more stricter than what the DNR already rules those sites. They even if they come down to is you can't around that wellhead, there can't be anything that can burn. So you either have to spray it or you mow it. Well, most people do. The DNR has approved sprays, so they spray it and they kill the vegetation around there in case something had happened. But as far as being regulated, those are already regulated and they're very, very strict. I've built many tank batteries. And you submit your plan, they approve it, they come back, and then they come out and inspect it, surprise inspect it as you're going, make sure. And so then there's a final approval, and then Cadillac, which is our district, and they approve it. So first of all, I don't think we would know what we're looking at or what we wanted. Secondly, I don't think we could get any more stricter than what the state of Michigan is. I don't know what we'd do differently, I guess.
can we even regulate that?
I don't think we can.
Can't do that.
I'd have to look at the statute. I'm not that familiar with it, in terms of.
I think,
How much we're preempted from
Mhm.
dealing with that, I don't know.
And if
Okay.
there was something we felt we needed to do with it after looking at it, so something we could do in a code? Or,
I don't know if we have.
The
your
zoning or-
authority.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think we do,
so, I don't think really this pertains.
because
to
the
this,
state would not want individual townships regulating, well, first of all, they can't. The state sets the standards, I guess it could, you can do what you want, but, I don't think you could get it any more stricter than what it is right now.
I think that, just something we're gonna have to look into.
I think it's worth asking a question at least.
Right.
Somebody who knows more than we do. And I mean, I appreciate all your information. Now, obviously, we have an expert sitting at the table. Sounds like good advice, but maybe we should ask a legal. Somebody with a legal.
Does anybody feel, go ahead, Carl.
Said that some townships did regulate it. Or had ordinances.
clarify a little bit.
I guess at this point, do we feel that this should slow down our master plan,
No,
to, yeah, I think it's definitely something we need to look at, but I guess in my personal opinion, we shouldn't slow down the master plan. Well, this could take us months to look into this. Does anybody feel different than that?
No.
Okay. And the only other thing I think that was mentioned, do you know what was mentioned about the map?
I could look at that and see if that's distorted in any way. It's just an idea of showing where Whitewater Township is in the region. I think I traced it over the top of a general map, so I can double check that map and see if that's.
I think, what's your opinion, Randy? Should we throw this to next month, or being the board's uncertain on what they're doing there, or should we go ahead and approve it at our level and let them do what they're gonna do?
Well, regardless, the planning commission has to approve the master plan. I mean, that's a given. The question is whether or not that's the final step or not.
Okay.
And that's up to the township board and their meeting next week. And as I said, I don't really know how they feel. I know historically the way it's been, but there's a new board and I don't know how they feel about it. So if the planning commission doesn't feel that there's any other edits to make to this, then I wouldn't think there'd be any reason not to go forward with it. We would remove the draft. And then it's also required that a adopting resolution go into the document itself, so you can tell that it was actually approved and exactly how. So that's why the draft resolution was in your packet, which is a fairly common form of that describes the steps that were taken and the hearings and the notifications and everything that took place.
Does everybody agree at this level that we're ready to pass this on?
I do.
Carl? You think at this time we're ready to pass this on to the board?
yes,
I guess just check into that map issue, but other than that, Randy has provided a possible resolution to adopt the master plan. Everybody get a chance to look at that. It's in your packet. Be on page
14 on my computer,
8.
on the printout, yeah,
Yeah.
8 and 14 on the, yeah.
When I printed this 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah,
So are we, if we're making the motion, do we need to read this whole thing?
I think so. Where it at?
Let's see. Thank you for my
I-
baby.
I would.
Whitewater Township, Grand
Is-
Traverse.
I
Go ahead.
was gonna say, I think you need to make your motion and then read this.
Okay, I move that we adopt the master plan for Whitewater Township for 2020. What date are we putting out? 2025 then?
Yeah.
Okay. Resolution adopting the Whitewater Township Master Plan, whereas the Michigan Planning Enabling Act of 2008, PA 33, MCL 125.3801, requires planning commissions to prepare a master plan pertinent to the future development of a township. And whereas the Whitewater Township Planning Commission prepared a draft master plan for Whitewater Township, updating and replacing a previous master plan dated 2015. And whereas the Whitewater Township Board of Trustees authorized the distribution of the draft master plan to the various entities as required by the MPEA for review and comment purposes on October 8th, 2024. And whereas the proposed master plan was made available for comment from various entities as required by the MPEA between October 17th and December 23rd of 2024. And a public hearing was thereafter held by the Planning Commission on February 5th, 2025, with a public notice as required by MPEA. And whereas the Whitewater Township Planning Commission finds the proposed master plan as amended after the public hearing is desirable and proper and furthers appropriate planning, land use, and development goals and strategies for Whitewater Township. Now therefore be it resolved that the Whitewater Township Planning Commission hereby adopts the 2025 Whitewater Township Master Plan containing all maps, companion documents, background information, and related descriptive material. Motion by Reen Stratton.
Second.
Second by Al Eaton.
Before you vote on that, is there a resolution number attached to this resolution?
Should be two, shouldn't it be?
Should be 25.
Because one was, I thought one was the count or the schedule. Would this be two? Because this would be the second one we've done. That'd be right, Randy? Piece, I think we had, we had PC 25-1, I think was the
schedule.
schedule. So wouldn't this be PC 25-2?
I believe so.
If your format's 25 dash.
Oh, well, what was it?
02,
02, yeah.
25 dash.
Okay.
2,
Okay.
That's correct.
and this would be 02.
That should,
At the top.
At the top of it.
and then I do have a question still before the vote.
We can write that on there.
That was Stratton
Yeah.
first, was it Keaton?
Keaton?
second?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the motion is the entire
Yes.
motion, correct?
And then we'll put that number on it then.
Is there any other change, Denise, to that? In this signature?
You mean mine?
Yes.
Yeah, I usually sign my name DA and not Denise Peltonen. And I was wondering if that would work on this document or if they should change the signature line to DA Peltonen Secretary. Does it make a difference?
I would think if it's your everyday signature, I would think.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
it's my everyday.
Use every day.
Yeah, okay, all right. That works for me.
Want me to read it again?
So well. I was
Uh,
in awe.
Okay, so are you ready for a roll call vote?
Roll call. Okay, Jacobson,
Yes.
Robel,
Yes.
Peltonen, yes, Milnick,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Stratton.
Yes.
Okay.
Vote this, then it gets forwarded to the township board, is that correct?
There's a resolution on their agenda coming up next week.
Do I have a form to sign that after this?
This form.
Yeah, it's a draft. I mean, one that doesn't have draft on it.
Yes.
Okay,
We'll make those two changes and then
okay.
you can sign it and then it'll appear in the document.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. If the board gives up their authority to have to adopt it. Then at this next meeting that's coming up, then this thing is adopted.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make clear, because it seems there's just a little bit of confusion. What's going on. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear, we all understand where we're at.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to come back again if the board okays it, we're.
Well, if the board,
Either way, right?
if the board decides to keep their authority,
Yeah.
they have the opportunity to ask us to make changes.
Mhm.
Okay, whereas if they don't, then this is a done deal.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, well, I think we're done with that then.
Mhm.
Feels kind of good, don't it? Man. You're so off our life, right? Okay, we're moving on to correspondence. Clearwater Township Master Plan. Everybody should have got a copy of that. We can look at it. Comments on that?
I read it this morning. I had talked to the township supervisor a couple of years ago now about it. I don't have this. Talked to and boy, I thought, I thought it was really good. It's a small township, but I just thought it was really well done. I know when I talked to him, I remembered the situation in the city there, if you want to call it, with the lots. And that was a real interesting discussion and all the problems because of the way they were plotted originally.
Mhm.
Well, that was pretty good.
Any other comments? No. Think there's any action we have to make there, correct?
No.
Move on to reports, presentations, announcements. We have a presentation from Daniel Leonard from MEDC Redevelopment Services. You want to introduce him?
Yes, Dan, welcome here to us. We reached out to Dan here for some information with regard to the Redevelopment Ready Communities Program that's mentioned in the master plan as an important part of our future here in terms of looking at available programs and assistance from the state. And we're fortunate that Dan is a neighbor here and is chair of the East Bay Township Planning Commission as well. So he's very familiar with what we're doing, and they got lots of good things going on over there. And hopefully there's opportunities to work together on things as well. I know that was one of the comments that came back on the master plan was a non-motorized planning with East Bay at some point. So Dan's here to explain to us a little bit more about the RRC program, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks for having me this evening. Just a little background. Number one, congrats. That's a heck of a lift. We just went through that in East Bay Township, and it's no small endeavor. Working on the master plan takes a while and a lot of time on your effort and going through it. Also, I applaud that. So in my role, I kind of want to start real high level. Michigan Economic Development Corporation, we typically focus on economic development. That's new businesses coming to town. That can be industrial, it can be infill development, it can be new housing projects, it can be infrastructure. There's several different iterations in different, I would say, positions within the MEDC where we have folks actually in Northern Michigan that are targeting only industrial work. That's our business development arm. We have folks in Northern Michigan that are targeting only downtown development. That's our community development angle. And then as a piece of that, we have a technical assistance arm. And that's where the Redevelopment Ready Communities program comes in. It's actually positioned under the community development lens, but overarchingly, it's a way for communities to kind of position themselves, get themselves ready to be more attractive to the private sector coming in to develop. That can be a number of things. That can be looking at infrastructure, what you have or what you'd like to have in the future. It can be leveraging resources you have through the park systems that you have through, frankly, all the public land that you have as well. It can be diversifying the types of housing. Actually, that was one of the comments brought up, and things that you allow in your community that sets you apart from others. RRC is basically a platform. It's a way for the community to kind of position themselves to kind of get ready. Tell the outside public world what you want to see happen in your community. This is not something where we're going to come in and force you to look at a ton of different things. Every community is different. And this is not a program that's going to force feed ideals, different zoning criteria, anything like that. We have a series of 6 best practices that target planning and zoning, that target capital improvements, that target marketing, that target economic development. They're also site promotion and as well as just your overall master plan. So all of those things are ways that we will actually come in if it's something that the community chooses to engage in. And there has to be resolutions passed both at the planning commission level, but also the township board, if that's something that you want to participate in. We primarily statewide have, I would say the vast majority of them are villages and cities. We do have townships that are involved. East Bay Township is selfishly engaged in that program. And it's primarily a tool to, again, position yourself, but also it's a good way to maybe open up some different avenues, think about some things that you don't normally get hit with. And as you walk through those best practices, effectively what our staff in Lansing does is you'll be assigned someone. His name is actually Pablo Majano. And he's based out of Lansing, but he covers the Northwest region, Northwest Lower Michigan region. And I've drugged him everywhere. He's seen all different ways to do different, I would say, techniques as far as introducing different concepts, various things that you may like and some things that maybe you don't like. And what I guess I'm getting at is once you fully engage in the program, what happens is that we'll take a look at all of the documentation that you have, your master plan, how it aligns with your zoning code. If there's discrepancies between the two, that's pretty common. I mean, that's kind of the whole goal of your master plan is to tee yourself up to then have the background to say, hey, look, our zoning code is not allowing this. One example that I run into commonly is communities will say, hey, we'd like to see a differentiation in housing stock, different types of products out there in their master plan, but their zoning code says you have to have 1,000 square foot home to even be able to build in that community. So, and it may regulate duplexes and quadplexes or not allow them whatsoever. And with the changing times, there's a lot of different ways to develop new properties. So we can utilize this, this resource as a way to just kind of introduce new concepts, different variations of ways that you can set yourself up from a zoning code manufacturing standpoint to change your rules, or even, I would say, position yourself from capital improvements. We spoke just briefly earlier about different endeavors that the community is looking to target. Maybe that's even, just as an example, some park improvements around the township. If your parks master plan or your recreation plan is not up to code, then it's really hard for you to make application to trust fund grants or even the MEDC or even Eagle to try and help find grant resources to bring in to do those actual implementation projects. And the development and the creation of each one of these different types of strategies is a way for you to say to the community, hey, look, we've talked about this. This is a goal for us. This is a priority for us. It's all outlined as far as what we're trying to do. Now let's go out and seek those public or even private philanthropic investment opportunities to then accomplish those goals. So RRC is not going to fix anything, but it will present some different opportunities, some different options for the community to consider and craft how they want to move forward. The other side of what I do is tied more so towards private investment. And just knowing your community pretty well, I know you have a pretty strong industrial sector over here, especially in the Williamsburg area, and some other, I think, opportunities to be able to attract some new private investment, frankly, with all of the growth in Traverse and frankly, even Kalkaska. You're in a great strategic spot. But do you have a capital improvements plan that outlines what you want to see from a water, from a sewer, do you want to have those things at all? That's not saying that you have to, but I think it's a good way to look in the mirror and just say, position yourselves to say in the future, like, these are things that we want to target. We had that conversation literally last night in East Bay Township about our growth boundary and the limitations that we have with water and sewer. It all is based off of a plan and a dialogue with the community to see what they want to see happen as well. So again, it's just a way for a community to try and get themselves positioned to be attractive to the outside private sector so that they get into a situation, not that it has to be very fast, but it needs to be transparent. They need to come into Whitewater Township and know what the rules are going to be, how long it's going to take, and what the expectations will be at the end of the day. Because what we dislike having happen is when we get a community that's engaged in the program. And then because people like me are out there recruiting developers to come in to target sites that you have identified as a redevelopment opportunity. We want to bring in developers and have that process go smoothly. It doesn't have to be fast, but it needs to go smoothly. And so that's eventually what we get to. That is kind of the last step in the RRC program, is then identifying individual sites, private or public, that you want to see have a certain development pattern or a certain use associated with it at a certain point. So that might be too much, but I just wanted to throw that out there. It's kind of a light intro. And I'm happy to answer any questions because we can go down a couple different rabbit holes, but I'm here and I'm more than happy to just kind of fill in the blanks.
I had one question. We had looked at buying a piece of property actually
Okay.
for a public sewer system that we're going to need eventually. And then that kind of got put off to the side. So if the township found a need for that, that's very expensive, of course. Are there grants and things that you're saying that you could help the township get some grants to get in a public sewer system for the area for the village?
So we have not gotten into the game of infrastructure for a while.
Okay.
We used to be in that realm when we had federal funds through the community development block grant funding. We got out of that business. We haven't done grant rounds since I want to say 2015 for actual public infrastructure. The last time was like we had a deep freeze grant round for places that had water systems that actually failed back in 14, 15 when it was actually cold. Kind of like this year. And since then, we really have not gotten into that hard infrastructure game. We've done projects tied more so towards public space activation through park improvements, through streetscape, through, farmers markets, downtown kind of congregational areas. That's kind of our bread and butter, but hard infrastructure, no. Now, I will say that in order for you to be competitive to seek out grants, frankly, for something like that, that's where these types of like capital improvements plans is the place to identify that as a need, as a community desire for you guys to go out and seek that out. But as far as agencies that are out there, Eagle does do that. They do operate in that realm, as well as USDA rural development. And they have more loan programs, like long-term, very low interest loan programs that are to facilitate that exact thing. But also, there are resources through Grand Traverse County tied to brownfield redevelopment opportunities for leveraging new private investment coming in that can help pay for infrastructure on the back end. That's a wormhole of conversation as far as how that whole thing works. But there are a lot of other opportunities out there.
I missed an acronym.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is RAC or something that sounded like that?
RRC?
RRC, yes.
Redevelopment Ready Communities Program.
Okay.
Yep. I apologize. It's acronym soup. That's all we do.
The thing that you said that really caught my attention was looking for discrepancies between the master plan and our zoning ordinance. Can you describe, do you focus in on like just housing or do you go through everything?
Everything.
Okay.
So if it's something that the community engages in and wants to officially come into the program, that specialist who's assigned will go through all of your documents. All of them. And they will say, hey, in chapter X of your master plan, that your current zoning code is in contradiction to what that master plan says. And they'll line by line highlight exactly what that is. They will also go through each one of your sections like site plan approval. And they'll identify different ways that you may today be overlooking a few opportunities for review, or they'll say you're in compliance with our best practices. Basically, you get a report card on all of your public facing documents that say you're in compliance with state law, you're out of compliance with state law, or you're kind of working toward compliance. So it's kind of a nice checklist, if you will, to work from on an annual basis. And it's something where he would stay engaged with you basically on a quarterly basis, year round, until you reach, there's a couple different levels of certification. There's the engaged level and then there's full certified. Most townships don't go all the way through the full certification because there are things like marketing plans and economic development strategies, and some places just, they don't have the capacity or the desire, frankly, to do that. So many of them will just focus on master plan, zoning, capital improvements, and frankly, your marketing. I don't think it was marketing. There's a fourth one, I'm sorry, but you get what I'm saying. It's kind of the light version, if you will. Either way, it's a great exercise for you to at least understand exactly where you're at and compared to where state statutes frankly are requiring you to be.
I had a question. What's the cost?
There isn't one.
There isn't one.
No,
Yeah.
there's no cost.
That's good.
There is a cost. There is a cost,
good
though.
call.
It's your time.
Fine, yeah.
Yeah, it's your time. And here's the other thing is, when you engaged in this program, you know, I saw that you guys are seeking out a full-time staff person to try and help from a planning standpoint, which is great. And it will be, you know, something where that person's going to be in charge of managing all of the changes for all of these different things that you would have to engage in, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is a thing. Additionally, one thing I will say that I really like about the program is it provides you access, though, to technical assistance dollars through us. So let's say, as an example, let's stick to housing. It's an easy one. Your master plan says we'd like to see a bunch of different housing options. Your zoning code says you can only do X or Y. And you could ask that as a part of your zoning rewrite, that you contract a third party to come in and do a complete review of your ordinance, to identify and update those things where there are deficiencies between what you're supposed to be doing and what you're not doing. East Bay Township, as an example, we received, I want to say it was like $50,000 from MEDC to help rewrite our entire zoning code, which we just completed a couple months ago. So that is an example. Some places will use it for engaging in master plan updates, which you're fresh out of the blocks, so you won't have to worry about that. But that access to technical assistance a lot of times is very helpful. There is a 25% minimum match to that, but regardless, you know, that's just another resource that you can use.
Can you tell us the process, the timeline?
It varies. I've seen some communities go all the way through certification, which basically means they've aligned all those 6 best practices and brought them into compliance. The fastest one I've ever seen was 12 months. The slowest ones I've seen are still out there 6-7 years later. I would say statewide, we have had over, I think there's like 336 or 360, it's somewhere in there, municipalities that are out there. And at this point, at a certain point in our program, we had over 270 of them engaged. So they were all going through it. Fortunately, some of them have kind of found that this isn't the best fit for them. And it's not for everybody, because not everyone has staff and time and energy and focus, frankly, to do all that work. But there are bits and pieces that you can kind of take and run with it at your desire. So I've seen as small as like over on the east side of the state, because I get over northeast, northwest, and the greater Grand Rapids area. You get over to the northeast side, the village of Harrisville. The village of Harrisville. Maybe it's even the city of Harrisville. It's been a little while since I've been over there. I was contacted from a group of their business owners who are not in a position like you all as the planning commission. They're just a core group of business owners. They were the ones that championed and did all of the legwork for the village and then reported back to the village planning commission and board and council just to have them kind of bless their work. And they were the third party that helped usher them through the program. So it doesn't all have to come from just this body. It can come from other interested groups as well. but timing wise, it's at your discretion, and we generally don't kick people out of the program until they quit responding to us, which happens, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But more times than not, it's not a race. And it's not something that, you're gonna be asked to leave. It's just, we're gonna check in with you and make sure that you're continuing making progress.
So is it a paper, like a map, like I don't know, like a program, and you check, you could read it, if you do it, you check it and then send it in, and then you check it and then it comes back, and how does that?
Yes, good question. Administratively, we operate on a online form that's known as Trello. And it's basically, you'll see all of the best practices all outlined. And it will have your report card right there live. So you can zoom in and you can see and add comments to things that you're working on, and someone would have to be the point person who's gonna access that, who's gonna manage that, who's gonna bring things up to date so that our people in Lansing, they don't want you mailing things back and
Yeah.
forth. Email, sure, but they're not gonna, that's kind of our administrative checklist, if you will, so that they maintain a record of what you've been working on.
Since there's no costs involved here other than our time, what steps would we take? If we decide to do something like that. What
Sure.
steps would we take to be a part of it?
Good question. First off is engage with the specialist in Lansing, Pablo. He'd probably come up, do something similar, or even just have a conversation, frankly, with everyone, either via Zoom or in person. Secondly, we ask that the planning commission sign off as far as passing a resolution to formally engage in the program. And lastly, in your case, township board. We have to officially sign off and pass a resolution saying that they'd like to move forward with the program as well.
I take
That's
it you
it.
have a sample resolution we can,
We sure do.
I bet.
Hundreds.
That wouldn't be bad for like a special, or a joint meeting sometime. That'd be a good topic to have him here and we've had some joint meetings with the board. They'd have everybody here and they could talk, everybody have the chance for get their questions answered,
Sure.
all in one spot
Sure.
too.
But like I said, I'm about 10 miles from here.
Mhm.
Everybody from Lansing, it was just, this works out well. It gave me an excuse to go out and
Snowmobile.
So-
find my way here via the trail, and I'm a sucker for public service, so here we are.
Yeah.
It's, I attended a meeting for the township here a year or so ago. There was a group in Traverse City. It's the Traverse.
Connect?
Something,
Travis Connect.
yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
went to that and it's similar, but more larger. I think they tend to be more of a metropolitan, bigger area, but they were saying there's a lot of businesses that, again, that might want to come into here, but you need the infrastructure for roads, power and that, and it sounds like, but that one, I reported back to our township supervisor on it, and that sounded something that, a couple of the other townships same thing, and I think that was just a little too big, or the townships weren't ready for it. This sounds a little more grassroots and something that,
Yep, this is very much foundationally driven.
yeah.
And it's gonna be driven by you. I would say that, let's say that we're, 2 years down the road, everything's in compliance, you're moving ahead and you have all these documents that say economic development is gonna be our strategic focus. And we're gonna do that by seeking outside counsel and assistance to then start, frankly, headhunting businesses to come in, because we've identified our sites where we want to see something happen. We have a plan for infrastructure to come in to that space to facilitate it. And that's more of a role for Traverse Connect, where they're out there trying to help recruit businesses. That's not to say that they couldn't do planning and zoning stuff, but that's generally not their specialty. Locally, I rely on my economic development organization partner of Networks Northwest a lot of times. They can come in as a third party and help do planning and zoning updates if those are things that you're working on. Or it can be any third party consultation consultant if you want. We don't have anybody in our back pocket. It can literally, the work can be done by anyone, but it's at your discretion.
Any other questions?
So the kickoff is a resolution by the planning commission and the town board.
You got it.
Okay.
But have a good conversation with Pablo before that happens.
What, yes, yes.
It'd be nice to have a joint meeting with.
So Randy would have Pablo's information on how to get in
I
contact.
don't
with
know
him?
Pablo, but.
That's
I'm
okay.
sure,
I can send it to you.
Okay.
No problem.
All right.
No
Well, we
problem.
thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
appreciate
you,
the
Dan. I
time.
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Building administrator report.
Hi, Deb Graber. I think the agenda says this is my September report, but it's actually my January 2025 report. Sorry, I missed it when I was making those other changes. Only issued like 5 permits during the month of January. Things have slowed down a little bit. Still have an issue with short-term rentals, and we did have a zoning board of appeal that was heard at the end of January that was in fact denied on somebody that had built a shed without permits. So I don't know if anyone saw my report, but this might be the fastest meeting I've ever attended here. So I am not going to be the one to slow it down. So
I do want to question, you said
Yeah.
something about an issue with short-term rental. Did I hear that?
I mean, I've got a short-term rental discrepancy, problem over on Elk Lake Trail. Yeah. There's several in the community, but I've been on this one since May, and I'm still waiting for a process to be engaged. So I'm talking to the board on Monday on how important it would be if we got a municipal civil infraction policy and eliminated our enforcement policy that says, I will write 2 letters, I will warn people, I will ask them to comply, I will build a case, I will get photos, I will log for months, and then I will take it to the board, I'll get approval to send it to the attorney who will what? Send more letters. And then the attorney will come back and say, well, you want me to write a ticket? And it's like, no, our policy doesn't allow that. Well, what's your board want me to do? And it's like, so I've been going in circles since September. It was approved by the board to go to the attorney in August, and it's now February.
Okay.
And it's still
Yeah.
there. So,
A good reason to take that one up.
yeah, it is pros and cons of that.
The
So-
attorney has sent these people many letters, right?
Oh, yeah,
A couple at least.
probably at least
I've seen it in
3.
your report more than.
At least 3. The board, I think, had a closed session about it in November or December. And
We did.
it's on Linda's plate at this time, because I wanted to see it pursued. But Monday, I'm presenting that we need to repeal the enforcement policy and try to train the new board
That's,
on
well.
why we should try to have a municipal civil infraction where
I
we
think
could
the
write
board's
tickets.
Looking very clearly at the civil infraction issue for those very reasons. And we've had conversations with the township attorney about the enforcement mechanism and the proper way to approach this. So that's underway.
But it's not just short-term rentals. It could be
Right.
blight. It could be a nuisance. It could be somebody that's constructing something in the setback where you could just write them a ticket and say, you need to take care of this, rather than going through this labor intensive and getting attorneys involved. And then the attorney has to file a case, in order for us to pursue them.
So the options are being looked at.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've been asked to, I don't know, Randy, do I really need to do a summary on what an MCI is on Monday?
But what is?
Municipal civil infraction. Linda wants me to try and take you guys from ground zero to explain to you why.
I think
It's
that's a good
important.
question.
I don't think that's for here, but
Yeah.
that's a general ordinance.
Well, it sounds like you guys have kind of talked about it a little bit. I just haven't been involved. So anyway, any other questions regarding zoning or planning? I know we do have a hearing coming up next month. You guys have a package. The one thing I did notice I didn't have in it, it'll be on the I'll get all this posted on the website. The only thing I didn't include was chapter 8, article 8. I've kind of been waiting to see if our zoning ordinance that was approved actually gets put in the paper and noticed so that I have a date when it goes live. Because I've been working off a draft zoning ordinance since I got here. So hopefully that's gonna get, and I don't know where that stands, so it may need to get reapproved by the board at this point. So as soon as I have that, but right now it's Article 8, I think, is for commercial and village. So that's the only thing I didn't include in your package on the hearing for next month. But it will be posted on the website probably next week, and then I'll get the notice out to everyone. Footnote to the public notice for tonight's hearing. It did go into the Traverse City paper within the 15 days. The notice in the Elk Rapids News just went in. It didn't make that 15-day cutoff, so just know that we did notice it properly, but we did an additional notice a week later in Elk Rapids. So if you start looking at those dates and saying, oh, this didn't meet the 15 days, we did meet the 15 days with the Traverse City paper. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I don't really have anything to say, other than that I'm gonna probably say it all during our zoning ordinance information, so.
I
Denise,
have
you got anything?
I have nothing to report.
Denise, you have
Nothing to report.
Okay. Randy?
Hey, there's really 3 items on the upcoming board meeting agenda that relates to planning commission business. As I mentioned before, they will consider a new resolution with regard to the final approval of the master plan. There was that discrepancy found in the prior resolution. So there's a memo in the packet, and there'll be a proposed resolution that was reviewed by the township attorney to make sure that it's proper and legal. And so I honestly don't know whether the township board will want to retain authority to approve the master plan or not, but we'll stay tuned for Monday night and we'll find out. The other 2 items on here, just to make you aware, the township's board is going to consider making a formal request to the planning commission to address short-term rentals. You know, before we've had the issue about the communication between the board and the planning commission, and we talked about a joint meeting, and that would be great. I'm not sure that happens within the next couple months, just because of the budget and other obligations. I think everyone would love to do it, but we all have lives too that are outside these walls. So I would look for that, and obviously it's not happened yet, but it'll be discussed. Similarly, the township board, I believe, is going to request the planning commission draft a private road ordinance for us, a private road ordinance. That's been one of the areas where I know it was batted back and forth. The private road ordinance was repealed. The planning commission, as I understand it, worked on some options for a new one. It went to the board, went back and forth. It didn't go anywhere. It was never approved. So I believe personally, we're very vulnerable by not having a private road ordinance in the township. There's nothing to describe the standards by which a private road would be built. If one is proposed, and that could happen anytime. So we're vulnerable. And we did find out that Gordy Fraser does have access to, because they work with a lot of townships in the area, we can get some sample ordinances, and they can help us for very low cost and explain some of the engineering behind the private road design. You know, there's issues about horizontal and vertical curves of roads and the drainage and the materials, and it gets even more complicated if the private road is paved, which can happen too. So can't say much more about that till the township board meets, but that's likely coming your way, our way.
That's exciting.
So it's a way of formalizing this instead of guessing what the township board wants or doesn't want.
Yeah.
It's
You know.
awesome. It's great to have a little
Yeah.
direction to it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
The short-term rental thing is going to be obviously a big lift in terms of
Yeah.
how we deal with that. Thinking that informally that's been talked about has been the idea of creating another committee like we had with the ROS of perhaps a planning commission member and a town board member, along with residents of different perceptions about short-term rental, get them together, give them a short period of time, not a short period of time, but a finite period of time to come up with recommendations for what the township board should do in terms of an ordinance, whether it's licensing, whether it's zoning, or whether it's both. So we know from the survey, and it may be that we need another survey. We asked one question in the master plan survey about that, and it was, we got some interesting information, but I think it kind of raised more questions than it answered really. And so it may be, or maybe other workshops as well that we had, and maybe have a public forum on what do we people think about short-term rentals is, where do we agree? Do we want to regulate it? Do we want to just allow it? Where do we feel on that? I don't think, and that's part of the issue about the enforcement thing that's in the background too, is how aggressively to look at short-term rentals from an enforcement mechanism when we're going to revisit the whole issue.
And this is up in front of the state too, isn't it? They haven't.
There's
decided
been
yet, or
there's been statute or
proposal?
proposals for at least 5 years that I'm aware of, maybe longer.
So if we want to do something, it's important to get that in place before they. if they
Yes,
have
although
to,
it's
because that may be
possible
great.
the state could preempt local control of short-term rentals. So that was some of the goal, I guess, and some of the legislation I saw was limiting local government's authority to regulate short-term rentals.
That was one of the reasons I heard a few years ago that why we didn't tackle it was because
You thought the state was going.
the state was looking at 2 or 3 different things that would overrule us. So there wasn't much point in pursuing it at the time.
Randy, did the Supreme Court design or say that that's less than 30 days?
I don't know of a Supreme Court case on
I
that.
think they said there was one. I had some information and then I'll get it for you that they define that. I think it was 30 days or less because,
For
but
sure.
I'll see if I can dig that up.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure,
For a definition of
There was
short
a-
term.
There's a guy that I was talking to he's a clerk at the Michigan State Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And I've been talking with him and I had a case that was I think it was COR and he said, no, that's not ours. That was a Court of Appeals.
Mhm.
Then he explained what had come up when he said he can't offer any opinions.
Yeah.
He's got very careful how he talked, but I believe that at the end of the day, that was how do you define short-term rental? It was just 30 days or less. So that's something we can look
Yeah.
into because I think that's already been decided.
Would a companion review of our nuisance ordinance be part of that short term rental? Because that's where the general ordinance covers every situation. And
Yeah.
when there's no, right now, because there's no short-term short-term rental ordinance, still sometimes I will say maybe there are some. And you can, you can file a complaint if the nuisance ordinance has something that covers like noise and things like that. So we have to kind of, I would think, work together on both of those.
Anything else, sir?
No,
Randy?
That's it.
Carl? TV
Yes.
representative?
We, at our meeting, we had 3 new members, appointed to the, ZBA. Wendy Hoeksma is the township rep. Randy Boyd is a new citizen rep. I understand he's had previous experience in this. And Eric Gall is a citizen rep, an alternate rep. We appointed our new officers for 2025. Chairperson is Roberto Garza. The vice chairperson is Richard Boyd, and the secretary is Wenda Hoeksma. As Deb said, we did have one appeal that for asking for a north side 9-foot side variance and a 24-foot east side variance for an accessory shed that was constructed without obtaining the land use permits, and the appeal was denied. That's it.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions for Carl? Moving on to unfinished business. Zoning ordinance. I'd like to take this section where we discuss what projects we're gonna try to take up. Secretary to get some direction from the board too. I don't wanna slow the process down. I just want to keep moving. So my thought is here is I'd like to talk about what we would like to try to take up. Maybe talk about citizen committees if we're going to look at that. And then if anybody here has any pet project they would like to take on, I have included a few things I would like to do. I would like to try to keep being that we're going to have multiple items going on at the same time, to keep track of all that and set goals for each project. So hopefully Randy can help us with that a little bit on, where we might need to send out something to the public for question answering, things like that. Some of this stuff is going to be easier, I think, with the like the definitions. But I think probably the signs, the private road, short-term rentals that I listed as suggestions are gonna be more of a heavy lift, so. This, I'll leave it to Randy here to his thoughts on this, but I would like to see us get a few of these started.
Yes, I also wanted to suggest updating the PUD to the list.
Which one is that?
So
It's the first, under the major zoning issues. Working document that Brandy gave us.
Yeah, and what is it?
Update the PUD, the
Oh,
existing
yes.
PUD is contradictory in terms.
mhm. So that may also relate to the new business item number 8, where we are talking about a RFP to have some planning advice coming from a consultant to help us work through this stuff. So there's potentially overlap between what you're talking about. I think we said before, if there's like low hanging fruit, we can put this in our ordinance, let's get that done because, but revising the PUD ordinance, revising some of the other areas, and there are probably areas where we need some professional expertise to walk us through that, and give us some options and recommendations to follow.
I think too, though, my thought is like if Maureen wants to kind of take that under her wing as PUDs, it's something somebody could start studying, getting information on, bringing it to the board. This is what I found. This is what I think. And then when we do get somebody on board, we're not just starting from scratch again. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
That's kind of my idea. It's like,
Okay.
let's try to get something moving here so that each month that we come, we can have something to bring to us to make us more knowledgeable about that subject. Make sense?
Yes.
So I threw out some forms there. Basically, the forms are gonna be for me to help keep track of it. You guys can use them if you want. For each project, I'll create a book. And we'll just keep track of everything that we're doing on through those. Does anybody have any suggestions of what's already listed there? I know Reen mentioned the PUD.
I would say review the nuisance ordinance, because that would be hand in hand with the short-term rentals. It ties into that.
And that's part of the general ordinances.
I don't know if
Or
it's
is
a
that
general.
It's a separate, I think the township has a separate noise ordinance, if I'm not
Yeah, is that
mistaken.
a general ordinance then?
Yes.
So it would be a police, yeah, okay. Yeah, those can be amended too, can't they? Or is that out of our purview? That would be at the township level?
Well,
Because it's a general ordinance?
I guess in terms of the recommendation on how to deal with short-term rentals, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
That could bleed over to, reliance on a stronger noise ordinance, for example,
Yes,
rather than regulating short-term rental, because it doesn't matter whether the noise comes from a short-term rental or from a,
yeah,
long-term rental. It's,
Yeah.
noise is noise. Yeah, or a full-time resident.
Yeah.
Noise is noise.
yeah, that's correct. Yeah. One of the things I started to do was definitions, and and speaking with Randy, we should, if we go to different townships, we can look at their definitions. And so I was thinking of Milton Township and Acme Township. Does anyone else have other townships that you think would be useful to review their definitions?
I would look at East Bay also, because they just went through an update.
Yeah, I,
There's some very good ones on MCLs, the Michigan complied law. If you go into definitions, they have some that the legislature has sat down. And those, if you had to go to court with them, those would stand up.
that's a good one.
That's important.
Yeah,
For what
Yeah.
we're
So
doing.
am I hearing, Denise, that you're willing to take on the definitions project? My thought here is,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to really see us take on more than 4 right now. I think taking on more than that.
Oh, well,
Okay,
then
fair
leave
enough.
the PUDs off for now.
So that, what I'm saying is, let's kind of figure out what we want for those 4. Denise, if you're willing to take on the definitions part,
I'd love to.
you've been voluntold.
But can two
Yes,
PC members work together?
yes,
Okay,
but
good.
there'll just be one person kind of assigned to it to
Mhm.
kind of head it up.
Okay,
And then for each month,
I'm looking for a victim. I mean, a partner.
each month, I'm hoping that you'll have a report saying what you come up with and
Yeah.
what's been done.
Okay,
And then maybe a next step, that type of thing. Okay, so Denise, definitions. I'm willing to take on the short-term rental thing with help,
I would like to work on that as well.
okay?
you can think just 2.
Well, just to start out, I mean, we're gonna talk about setting up a committee
Okay,
and that type of thing, and I think that with the board's motions that they're gonna bring forward, that, you know, that's just icing on the cake then.
These are, like this stuff you're talking about is stuff that could easily take a back seat when the board gives us direction on something else, or doesn't
Yeah.
have to be exactly in the forefront, like it might be now until we get direction.
Right,
Yes.
exactly, and you know, it sounds like we're gonna be pretty much on direction with what they're
Yeah.
looking for anyways,
Right,
but
yeah.
there's at no time that we can't, you know, deviate.
Be
from that.
backing away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would like to see us every month get ahead a little farther on these instead of waiting. That makes sense. So we've got 2 of them listed already, definitions and short-term rentals. Any other,
The private road would be coming our way as well.
right, does anybody want to take that one on?
If I'm still around, I'll probably want to help on that.
Yeah.
And, even if I'm not still around, I want to say something real quick right now. So that people here in this room, hear, what part of the issue has been in the past. I would say, I wrote down when Randy was talking, I wrote down to mention that, I would want to ask from the board some type of direction towards what they would like to see happen about the existing private roads. Because there's been a little contention that some of those people are worried that if we have a private road ordinance, they're gonna be demanded to come up to that standard. So I would caution that in the beginning of that, you ask for good direction from the board on, kind of, how do we want to handle this? And I mean, it's obvious going forward, we want the new roads to be to this new standard, to a standard that we now have. But what do we do with the old stuff and kind of have at least a little bit of direction instead of just wandering ourselves?
One thing, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
So would you be willing to take on?
I'd be willing to help. I wouldn't be a lead person, but I'd be willing to help on
Okay.
that.
And maybe come up with a list of the things we should consider. That's a good start. And if you could come up with a list for next month, that would be a great start to have on it. Anybody else want to help him with that?
so who's working on the short-term rentals?
Myself and Reen,
Okay,
and then I'll be able to glad
Yeah.
to help anybody else and anything else too.
yeah.
So,
Do you want to help with roads or no?
I got,
Okay.
I'm not available.
Okay, all right. Mike, I can help up, I can do the research on other township road ordinances and just print them out and hand them to you, and you can kind of look at them, and
Okay,
because you have the background and what, the past ones that this township's done.
well, that'd be a good, I was thinking the same thing. It'd be good to see if we could scrounge through the old, I don't know, what do we have? Maybe old minutes and find some of those old ones that were never made it.
Who did I send? I sent it to somebody recently, a couple of years ago. We were asked to look at some of the other township private road ordinances. And I did, went up in Leelanau County, and I think I still have that on my computer.
That would be good. If you
Send it
still,
to- Cause I already sent it to somebody here just a month or two ago.
was it
You?
me?
What was that, Carl? I'm sorry.
It was a letter that Rachel asked us to look up some ordinances on private roads, and I think you did. You had Grand Traverse, I think, one
Mhm.
real huge thing.
Yeah,
And I looked one up in Leelanau County, and I sent it to Rachel, and I just recently sent it to somebody here. I thought I sent it to you. I'm not sure, but I can look that up again and.
Yeah, that, if you still
Send it.
have it, you can send it to me and I'll print it and I'll give
Okay.
it to Mike.
I've got some pages. I was gonna told Mike I'd drop over to him. I had it. Carl, the one I had was 108 pages. And when I talked with Ron, he said, that's a little much. He said, we need to see if you can bring that down. So I got down to 22.
Wow, wow.
And then, so I'm gonna drop that off to Mike at his house there, and he can go over that. And one of the big things, you have to be cautious. There's a difference between a driveway and a private road. And a driveway, what you'll find in a lot of, I think it was some court cases, was serviced, and I can't remember which one, is it 2 or 3 homes, and anything over that,
Yeah,
it became a road, but there's already been legislation that has sat out, so that'd be a good one to keep, But I believe it was 2 homes. That's a driveway.
So that would be an MC.
I think so. I think
Okay.
I'll drop that off to Mike. I got some printed stuff printed out.
Yeah,
But that's one thing you want to make sure you have a clear difference, or there's a difference between the private road and the driveway. And you want to make sure it's clear which one is which, and that you can back it up in court if you would need to.
Okay, I think that from the sounds of it, maybe these 3 are gonna be it for now.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if we need to.
Was
create a
you
motion.
short-term rental, Denise?
Pardon?
Was you short-term rental?
No.
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 Read it,
Oh,
read it.
Read
I
it.
got some stuff I'll send to you
Read it
on
out,
that court cases,
Okay.
that Court of Appeals. It's on one down in Gladwin. There's some huge subdivision, and they went over the short-term rental thing, and it went up to the Court of Appeal, got up to the Court of Appeals.
Mhm.
And they made a decision. Well, I have that decision, so I'll get that information to you.
So I think maybe the signs we'll put on the back burner for right now, just manpower wise. Randy, listen
Just-
here.
Yeah,
I think that this is pretty good to start out with.
Yeah, that's great.
Right.
I think there's.
Okay, you understand where I'm going with this?
I do.
Try to.
I do, so we have some structure to it as
Right.
opposed to just bringing it
There's
up every.
been quite a
for-
few articles in Record Eagle about short-term rentals and the fact that townships, just East Bay or the others, they've had to revise them quite a bit, and there's been a lot of problems. So, but there's quite a few articles in the Record Eagle in the last, let's say, probably 18 months, 2 years, and a couple recently.
We will definitely go
They
through
Have
those.
to backtrack
Mhm.
what they've done.
So do we need a motion to go forward with just saying who's gonna do these projects, or can we just move on with the
I would
projects?
think so.
Okay,
Maybe
all right.
make a
And
motion to form a committee, but it's
Okay.
not me.
my thought is then for each of us for the projects, we should come up with something, some information for next month on how we should proceed.
Okay.
Okay, so how do we proceed from here? For definitely with short-term rentals, maybe even private roads, we might need a committee for. I don't, that's something that we'll look into and bring that forward to next meeting.
Okay,
Does that sound all right?
repeat the last statement again, that after the meeting next month, bring it to a committee form.
No, next month we'll either create
Create a committee
committees
next month.
or not create committees,
Yeah.
depending on how we feel and what direction we get from
Right.
the
Okay.
board.
So with definitions, there are 100, maybe 150, 200 for each township. Do you want, do you want me to group them together, like by word, like 4 different definitions and see how it compares with ours? Or do you, I'm trying to figure out how to organize it so it's it's best presented for review.
I think the person that's gonna use it the most is Deb. So we might want to get with Deb on that.
I'm just here to enforce whatever you put on the books, so.
Does the
Um,
definitions,
but
certain definitions that will help you?
Some definitions from other townships may not even apply to our ordinance or apply to our
Yeah.
master plan, so. It's looking at it, does it make sense, is it relevant in this township, and then present those.
Okay,
So you could bring those forward next month and we can go over them.
Yeah.
That's what you wanna-
Here's a list of ones we don't even have, or enhancements to what we do have possibly.
Yeah,
okay.
I might point out a couple of areas I know where there's issues on definitions that I've seen that we didn't correct or didn't address, but for example, frontage.
Right.
You know, what is frontage? If it's, you look at the definition in the zoning ordinance and it is something strange in my mind. You know, I mean, it's not unusual because you have sometimes lots on a cul-de-sac. So, you know, it's pie shaped.
Mhm.
So is it just what's the area touching the right of way? Or is it, sometimes it's measured at the front setback line, sometimes there's different ways of doing it. So I know there's some problematic areas in the ordinance now. I'm sure Deb has a few thoughts on that too. Maybe we should go for the areas that we know are problems. And
So-
they're not something that we should necessarily wait for a professional planner to work through because we may not get to them for a while.
That sounds good.
I have some I can give to you that on the definitions is from that MCL, the applied law.
Yeah.
And looked them up and so I'll get those up to you.
That would be
Print it
great.
out, give it.
That would be great.
There's several of them there too. It's
You're my new best friend.
something to do with like riparian rights and it explains it and so several of them. So I'll get those. I'll scan them and get them to you.
Yeah.
Or print them, I'll give them to you.
What's the question? Size. So,
Oh, I think
Oh, the
the
ordinance
ordinance
signs?
is not clear.
yeah, what is
Yeah.
that all about?
Well, that would be another project we would take up, but we just don't have.
Why? What is it? What?
Is it that the ordinance is not clear?
It's out of date, it doesn't even comply with the state.
Yeah.
It needs to be.
I
updated
take a
overall.
quick look at that.
He could explain.
Would
it.
you?
Either,
Well, that would be great.
to
Okay,
see what the issue is versus the state. Hey, I'll look at that.
that'd be great. Can you bring that forward next month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, so the idea is then, again, just to recap, that next month, we're gonna bring forward a plan for each one of these projects and where we move from there. And hopefully by then too, we'll have some information from the township board. Anybody else have any comments on that before we move on to?
Do you want that in Adobe Pro? Do you want the information in that program? Or
Either,
Word?
just something that I can add to the packet.
Okay.
Well, if you can get that to me a week before the,
What's that due date for the packet? When do you want that information in?
I would like that,
Just so everybody's on the same page.
yes.
March
Good point.
5th is the next meeting.
So February.
If I can have it by the 25th. So I can have it out the 26th.
Okay, it's deadline.
Okay.
Yeah,
25th.
Is that noon?
Noon 25th.
I knew. I knew.
All reports, anything for the packet to be in by that time. All right, Randy, do you have any update on the zoning ordinance?
No, I don't, other than it's waiting for the clerk to publish appropriately. There's a process that has to go through that has not happened yet. Same with the map, the same thing. It's one entity. The ordinance and the map are one entity.
Okay. All right, guess we'll move on to the budget. You should see a copy there that was provided to us, I think from Tim correctly, but Barnes.
Yeah, the deputy treasurer, the supervisor has been working on the budget, not only for us, but for all the departments. And this is what he's seeing without the benefit of knowing what the planning commission talked about last month. And then I know we have a few open-ended issues to discuss, specifically with regard to training. But we had estimates of the number of meetings last time. I don't have those numbers, but I know that.
Yeah, I don't,
I think it's 12, 2 and 2. 12 regular and then 12 special, or excuse me, 2 special and 2 joint, I think is what we used.
There's also somewhat of a wild card in this, and with respect to appointing committees and the payment of people appointed to a committee, resident or township planning commission member getting paid for a meeting,
Yeah,
like the ROS was paid, I believe.
yeah, well,
somewhere.
you are, they do pay, but some of us refuse to to accept the payment.
Right.
Only, that was a personal choice, but anybody can, they can choose one way or the other. But I can't remember how much it was. Is it 75 a meeting or?
That's the current rate for planning commission members, I believe.
Yeah,
is-
in the ROS,
What I think we'll do is instead of giving him a dollar figure, we'll just give him a meeting figure. So we'll set how many meetings we're gonna
That's
have,
a good
12,
idea.
2, and then
Or a footnote on here that to be,
ROS meetings,
it's hard to know how many meetings the short-term rental committee is going to have,
Right.
but and then, also it should be understood that funding needs to be provided if there's going to be another survey or if there's going to be some
Mhm.
workshops, and we want some of those things to be facilitated by a third party, so it makes it easier. Doesn't put the burden on anyone.
so is the yellow line a question mark that he put in yellow?
Yes,
Because we had printing 2,000, he wanted to know why, but that would be if we did surveys, we have to justify the request. So he's wanting to know. So that would be the justification in the annual report would be that we're going to possibly have one community survey mailing.
we may have more than that.
Yeah.
because, we talk about,
So you can put in 2, one
my
for,
thought is that, 6 ROS meetings.
with how many people?
I'm gonna say times 2. Because if we have meetings for, we have meetings for the, short-term rentals, we have meetings for the, private roads. So
What was our choices?
yeah, I don't know if, the
Definition,
signs, we
yeah.
would need them or not. Definitions, I think we could probably handle in here.
Yeah.
But I'd rather go a little high than low because, if we need them, we're gonna need them.
So are you saying 6 short
6.
ROS meetings for short-term rentals and 6 for roads?
Yeah, that might be a little high for roads, but short-term rental is definitely gonna take up some meeting time.
So,
So my guess is just ask for that, see what they give us.
okay. So,
And that would be so we're talking about a member from here, a member from the township, and maybe 2, so 4 members.
well, the public, how many people from the,
I mean, 2
Yeah.
from the public,
Probably from the public.
for,
so it'd be 4 members. Or should we have?
Or-
everybody-
I think we'd have more from
I
the
think it'd be more
public.
than that.
Yes, because we had about 5, I think, on the ROS.
At least 3 that I can think of.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
we,
I think there
were-
were like 6.
yeah, it was quite a few. And
Oh, were you not on the planning commission yet?
No, she
No.
wasn't at the time.
Oh, okay, so then there were at least 4 of us,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
3 were on the ROS, right?
What's that?
At one point, you
Yeah,
3 were,
right,
on
we
the-
That was
both
on the
on there.
board, though.
but you were on the
Right.
planning commission. so-
Right.
yeah. So
Okay, so we're talking six
Yeah.
members.
at 75 apiece.
Well, I'm not gonna give them the dollar figure. I'm just gonna give them a person figure. You can
Okay.
figure out the
Yeah.
dollars.
Okay.
And then, 6 members, 6 times for the short-term rentals. Just gonna say the same for private roads. I mean, if we don't use it, we don't use it. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, sounds logical.
Randy?
Yeah.
And then, one question I had about the professional services, this, RFP that we're doing, does that come out of our budget or theirs?
That would be our budget here.
Yeah.
And I already explained that that was probably, the 25 is probably not gonna get us very far. We'll talk about that, the way that RFP was written a little bit more, but I think that we talked about a much higher number at the last meeting.
You
For
get
that.
40 or 60, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
at least.
Yeah.
We've not spent that in the past, but we will in the future.
So, I'm thinking we stick with the 60 and they can, adjust if they feel they're necessary. But I think that they'll see that with the ERP and getting all this stuff done is not gonna be cheap.
Nope.
All right,
So which line are you putting the 6
that would be 8804 professional services.
and for the projected 24, 25? Or I'm sorry, projected.
The recommended.
No, that's what we were gonna recommend.
Recommended. Okay, so you want to put 40 or
60.
60 there. Okay.
And then, the only other thing I saw on here, I think that was hoping to see a little bit more to training, because I really want to try to bring somebody in on that.
Yes, so I guess before that though, the 840 number on the dues and memberships. So we had a conversation about all the planning commission members being part of the Michigan Association of Planning. We,
I got the data.
oh, good, okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I called today, so they're called mini groups, and I don't know how many people to put in the group. There would be, if 7 employees, it'd be $455. 6 would be $398, would be $520. And the easiest way to form this group membership is to put all of our email addresses, PC3, PC4, PC5, without our names, because our names may change, but,
Oh,
and then have them all mailed to the township
Yeah.
to set up the account. And then if you personally want to change it to your home address, then you can go into the account and set up your own password and change your mailing address. And then that way, it's just easier for them if we go ahead and the membership is from July 1st to June 30th. But if we go ahead and join now, she'll just give us the rest of this year free, and all of the next season, the July 1st to June 30th of 2026, for that dollar amount. She needs one person to create the account, and if Wendy doesn't want to do it, I could probably do it.
And how much was that?
I needed to know how many members we would have.
Would it be the 7 of us or?
1, 2, 3.
Would the
Well,
work
he
be
already,
included in that,
Yeah,
Randy?
I'm already a member professionally with it's a
And I
different thing, so
yeah, I don't know if Deb would want one.
I think that would be good if Deb were a member.
So that would be 7.
Yeah, so if we do 7, that would be $455 for an annual fee. And we can go ahead and I can talk to Wendy about that. And all she needs to know is the check is in the mail.
Well, we'll have to see if we authorize that.
Yeah,
Well, it's already in the budget.
yeah, we have left over in our budget.
Oh, we
Yeah,
did?
yeah,
That's
on
why there's no money in there because we.
number
haven't spent it.
840.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was because
We
I think
haven't
it's the last time it came up, we talked about individual memberships. Was that cheaper? And
Yeah.
I got sideways.
So, yeah, so it'd be line 840 dues and members. Our amended budget was $725 and we haven't spent any. So we can actually take it out of this
Okay.
year's budget.
And
And
then
then,
ask for the budget for next year's.
yeah,
Okay,
so I was, that's my,
yes.
you think that's a good plan? Just, yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah. And then the other one, the education and training, there's $300 left, it looks like. Or that's all that was spent out of
That's what was spent.
2,000 that was approved.
Mhm.
So I wanted to take Citizen Planner and that is, I think, 350. I can sign up for that now and take it out of this 2,000 as we have quite a money there. And then I don't, if you have 2 new members, you're gonna have to keep it, you're gonna have to keep it in there, but I can use up
Right.
what's
Good.
from this year. And
As you
Did
get
you
new
take-
members,
did you
everybody's
take
gonna have to have it, right?
Right.
Did you take
Yeah.
So
Citizen
you're gonna
Planner?
need some money in there
Not yet.
Right.
Do you want?
for
to-
that because
I think I'm
sometimes it changes
bylaws.
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you want to do it before?
Yeah.
Sign up for it now and then we can take it out of this year's budget?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll take ours out of this one. Okay,
So that's 2 new people coming onto the
Yeah.
Citizen Planner.
so that'll go in next year's. Yeah.
So we don't need a motion for people to take the Citizen Planner, correct?
No.
No,
Okay, but we will need a motion to
Add this stuff to the budget.
we'll know to join to take the 455, won't we?
No, it's the money's in the budget
Yeah.
for that. We just need the same amount for next year so we could renew the
But
membership.
for us to redo it now.
No.
Is that what you're saying? We're not.
We're
we're
spending,
not- this is a new account and we have the money in the account.
But to spend that money, we have to have a,
No,
I don't think so.
no, just, it's budgeted and we just didn't do it because it got complicated as far as group memberships or individual memberships and.
I
Denise
mean, as
straightened it.
board here, don't we have to approve that?
no, because
Mm.
we have the money for it in our budget already. If we didn't, then
Okay.
we'd have to ask the board.
Yeah. Right, so for training, I think we should try to keep the 2,000 that's in there.
So I have some information on that. I did check into the Michigan Association of Planning does do training and they, instead of going someplace, you can have it done locally.
Okay.
It costs $1,200 plus $25 per participant to do that. So obviously that's expensive unless you have an adjacent township join you,
Mhm.
which has been done before, where you might partner up with another township and then an instructor comes here and would do the training. They're typically 4 hours on a Saturday. So it's, so it's, I'm not sure if that's better for us or not. I guess somebody'd have to organize that. To invite other townships to make it cheaper, but I'm really not sure it would be. I offered to, I said, I've done these trainings before, for MAP. It's been some time, but, I could do it here locally, or you could bring somebody else in. Maybe I'm too close to some stuff. So anyway, the instructor doesn't matter. It's just whether we'd want to do the individual ones that you have from the flyers. And then you'll get notified of these trainings once you become a member as well.
I would like at least to have that option to do that if we can get that in there this year, so my thought is to keep the 2,000, then that would give us enough for
Okay.
that, and if there's other costs. How much was the Citizen Planner again?
I think
It's
it's,
250.
is it, I thought it was, what is it?
350?
Yeah. And then,
That'd be enough then.
well, Citizen Planner would be under education.
Yeah,
and
but
training.
everybody has to have the citizen planner, right?
Yeah,
Every new
It's in the
person.
bylaws.
yeah,
So I think I'm gonna put that to 2,500, that will give us enough to do the Citizen Planner. Plus, we could bring somebody in for training.
well, there's other, like I went to the agritourism summit and that was 100 and I think it was like 125. It was more, but I just did one day and I registered early, so it wasn't quite as much. But that's around $100. So maybe we should allocate at least $100 per person on the commission if they want to go to something, some event, because they're at least 100 usually.
I think the 25 will give us that. Is there anything else on there that, besides
Citizen planners, $250.
250? Okay.
Oh,
then
great.
2,500 will do it. I see that they took postage off. I'm guessing it's because they pay for postage.
Nope, not if we,
That come out of our budget.
yeah.
I don't see that year to date. It doesn't look like we've taken.
We haven't had any surveys or anything or postage.
but we-
Well, I guess,
We have this year though, haven't we?
is there any notifications to adjacent property owners within 300 feet?
That, I think it's booked based on PCs.
Does that come under the,
It's gonna come on the postage machine. It's gonna get booked to whichever entity it's.
is that coming out of our budget? Do you know?
Yeah.
I think so.
Should have some in there.
I don't know how that part works.
Me neither, but I'm gonna ask for it. Good.
Depends if it's getting booked properly off the postage machine.
Yeah. Okay, so for the salary, wages and stuff, I'm just gonna go by meetings and not dollar figure. He could figure
Yeah.
out the dollar figure.
Yeah, and I don't know if the rates per meeting will change or not.
Right. And then it moves to office supply. They dropped that down to 250. We didn't, used 120 last year. I can't really see us.
There's a separate also budget item for zoning administration, which Deb works under, so
Okay.
it's not, this is strictly planning commission that you're
Okay.
seeing.
So if we mailed a survey, community survey, would that come up?
This
the
this would
paper?
come under planning if there's like a variance request
Yeah.
for the ZBA, that would be under zoning administration. I believe.
I meant if the planning commission wanted to do a short-term rental survey and we mailed that out, the office supplies would be the paper that it was printed on. And
Yes.
postage to mail it. And they took all the postage out for next year. They have just a blank line.
Well, we're putting it back in.
Okay.
So office supplies, he's got a 250. I'm gonna put it at 3.
Yeah, keep in mind because I think the consultants brought all the stuff to the
Right.
workshop, so if we don't have them, we're gonna be supplying that. So all those big sheets of paper and the markers and everything.
But I think 300 should cover that, I think.
Yeah.
And then I put the postage back at the same rate at 2,000 because I don't know what it's gonna be for all these notices that we send out. We'll definitely want to send out questionnaires for the different things we're doing. The $60,000 for professional services. The dues and membership at $455. It's for 7. Mileage reimbursement. We didn't use it all of last year. He got it back in there at 350. I'll just leave it.
Yeah.
Education and training at 2,500. Publishing at 500.
Just-
Drop that down from 2,000.
So would
Well,
that-
I'm sorry.
is that the newspaper?
Well, if you make these flyers up, isn't that going to be publishing?
I
Yeah.
think flyers will be publishing.
Yeah, so it's gonna be more than 500.
Questionnaires that we print up to get mailed out.
The notices in the newspaper, does that come out of that or?
Yeah, it should. And then the maps that you had printed, did that come out of one of these categories?
Yeah, those zoning maps are about $50 a piece.
And
So,
are they already printed for taken out? Because they don't have anything in printing year to date, 11/30/24.
Yeah, I submitted one, I absorbed the other costs for the other maps, honestly, what happened. So, but the last one I submitted for reimbursement.
Okay,
So just so you know, for future, I mean, if we're gonna have more larger maps or having some printed at 11 by 17, that's gonna cost, $20 or so each one. And we should, and those would be available for sale too at the township, so we would probably do, a handful of those, as well as have some larger ones printed in Deb's office or elsewhere. So I guess I'm saying the printing, and I don't know where the printing of the master plan falls into this here, if this is going to be done yet this year or not. But we'll need to take that to a printer.
I'm gonna leave it at the 2,000 then, if that's okay with everybody else. I mean,
Yeah, if you.
just a guess at this point, we don't know.
Just, yeah, just if you want justification, because he had it in yellow, just
Right.
put printing of the master plan, maps, and something else, so he,
I'm actually gonna call him this
Flyers.
week and go over this over with him.
and flyers, yeah.
Um, that's printing is. Well, if everybody's okay with that, I think I'm just gonna discuss this with Tim. I don't know if we need a vote on something like this until we get this nailed down, right?
It won't be
You
too
know
long
when-
before you'll be printing those master plans. I wonder if 2,000, Randy, what do you think it costs to print one of those? just
I don't
roughly?
honestly know. I mean, I guess it's an issue of quality too. The copies that you have here came out of my printer at home.
We would probably want
So-
several of these for
Right.
that quality of the thing,
Okay, so if,
don't you?
Oh, I think so.
And we'd want some for probably all of us and the board, and then some for distribution, so. I don't know what these would cost to print and put together, but I bet.
Well, I think maybe that's something that the board can kind of
yeah,
discuss. and
I'll
decide.
investigate that and see what, I mean, it's all color and it's pricey to
Right.
do that. It's pricey to do it with a laser printer too versus an inkjet.
Is that something
versus-
you take like Kinko's or something, have them do and put it together for you?
Yeah, but I think they're like at around 35-50 cents a page, aren't they, for color prints on
Yeah.
pages?
And then if the zoning ordinances are approved, does that printing come out of our budget too?
Well, that's all black and white, so that can probably just be done in the office here,
Okay,
I would think.
Do you know when the budget has to be approved?
Well, it's
March 31st.
March, yeah, the end of March it's April to April is the fiscal year, so. But I don't know what other, in front of that, I know there's be a public hearing and there's obviously a board meeting before that, so. I'm not real sure of the schedule.
You know when the board would have to have our final? Do we have to actually vote on sending a budget to them?
Mm.
Or can we,
I don't think.
could we just give the?
I don't think we
budget
did last year. I think it was given to us,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
So we can I can just go talk to Tim on this.
I would do
What
that,
we
Yeah.
just discussed and.
right?
Yeah.
And then there's a budget hearing, of course, so there's another opportunity to make changes there. So
All right,
there'll be another planning commission meeting before the budget's approved.
I'll talk to Tim and let you guys know next month what he says on that.
Just referencing section budget 2, discuss and approve next fiscal year's budget to send to township board. I don't know if that indicates.
That is fine, 'cause we're not gonna be voting on it, so.
Then I will. Just address that somehow in the minutes. Discuss.
Hey, does anybody have any other questions or discussion about the budget? I'll bring back whatever Tim kind of says on that, and then we'll have to wait for the board. Review the RFP for the planning services. Randy?
Yes, so we've talked about this before. I've actually put together a RFP similar to what we did for engineering support. This is typically what I would expect to find. Again, I spent 30 years on the other side of these RFPs, so I know what typically goes into them. I think the key here that I wanted to, number one is make sure that you see what's going out. And then number two, recognize that I put this into phases because of knowing what the RRC program may or may not do. We might want to try to do some things and then maybe get funding from the RRC to do more. It was kind of the thinking. So if we broke it into phases, we could maybe get started on this because the RRC program is going to take a while to roll out. If in fact we want to go that direction. I don't know. Obviously, there's no decision by anybody yet on any resolutions or by the planning commission or the board. So it made sense to me to look at this in a phased approach, put the list of all the issues as we know them right now in that RFP. We would ask the consultant to give us an estimate of what we could take to get through 6 or 7 of those issues. Tackling the whole list there is pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
In one consulting arrangement. So that was the thinking.
In the presentation tonight, I guess, the first, I think he said, one of the representatives for this area would come here and discuss it with us. And I don't know if it has to be at our board meeting, but.
Actually, you said, I think we needed to talk to
Pablo?
Pablo. Yeah, I didn't want to
first,
say.
so I think Randy will talk to Pablo and see if that's something that will help
Yeah.
us or benefit us or not.
Because that sounds like it would be working in conjunction with what we're doing, the definitions and some of these ordinances that we could work together.
It does, but there's some low hanging fruit I think we can pick off in between,
Yeah.
the consultant working on things. I just don't want to, we just got to make sure we're coordinated here and, because I'm sure if they're going to rewrite the PUD sections, then we should be making sure that the definitions are consistent, obviously with the new material. So I think we can easily do that. But so this RFP is before the township board next week as well for
As
their
far as
approval.
our board is concerned, we don't have to worry about the RFP for planning service. The township board's taking care of that, right?
Right. The contract would be with the township board would execute, just like the contract with the engineer, Gordy Fraser, is with the board too, which is being signed today, by the way. So that's all done. Took a little extra time, but it was.
Is he gonna help us with the road, the private roads? Okay.
Yep.
That'll really help.
Yeah, primarily, I mean, knowing what other townships are doing and then also answering the engineering questions behind, why is it a 10% slope so magical? Why is, the base have to be this? Why does, the drainage have to be that? And I don't know those answers.
It's not getting it quite.
All right, any other discussion on that then?
Is there any comments on the RFP? Does that make sense to everybody? Is that, okay?
Next meeting is March 5th, 2025 at 7 PM. And we're back to public comment again.
No.
Did I miss something?
Aren't we supposed to get a report from Deb on a lawsuit?
Oh, yes.
Didn't I see that in here?
Yeah, I think
Education.
It's
Yeah,
after the
It's down at the
public,
bottom.
it's at the very bottom.
Yeah.
It's after the public comments.
It's after. All right.
Hey, hi, I'm Sadie Merchant, 10981 Elk Lake Road, Williamsburg, Michigan. I'm just here tonight, just very casually, just to kind of get like the ball rolling and people thinking about some things that we've been thinking about as business owners. We own Myrtle and Mods on Elk Lake Road. First, I need to kind of clarify, I feel like a few years ago, we came to the township board asking for a Class C license, which is a liquor license. And just being naive, and we've done a ton of research since then and homework and talked with a ton of people in the agricultural community, and that is not indeed what we want or what we're looking for. It's actually a small winemaker's license is what we are hoping to move towards, and having a tasting room. However, with that being said, there's no ordinance written in Whitewater Township for this. So I know there's a lot on everybody's plates, and it's exciting to have the new master plan written, and we're happy about that, and looking over that and seeing like the 4 planning principles that people have come up with. I feel like working towards this for our business growth really address 3 out of those 4 for sure, which would be preserving the rural character of the township. That's like number 1 and hits close to home for us as small farmers and as 4th generational farmers. It's no secret that the cherry industry is horrible. At 18 cents for a tart cherry, like we can't keep doing that. It's no secret trying to, maneuver all these different avenues of how myself and my brother and my husband and his wife can keep our farm going. We have to change the narrative. We have to do something different. And since Myrtle Monts has opened, it has been awesome, and it has really helped our farm and helped us maneuver those things. But there's a lot more that we can make with our cherries and our apples. And there's lots of farms doing this. So I think, allowing us or working to write an ordinance for that is going to help preserve the rural character of Whitewater Township, which everybody loves. And as far as building a sense of community, which is the second thing that you guys are looking for, I mean, we get a ton of positive feedback about what we've already done here, and people love coming there with their families, whether they live here or are visiting the area. And I feel like this will only heighten that sense of community in a place for people to come and socialize and interact with each other. And then obviously encourage economic opportunities, whether, this is not just for our small town farm, but also people, employees that we would have to have, and things like that. So I know that there's a lot to think about, and it's not going to be an easy feat, but I wanted to just come and introduce myself again and say that this is the route we're trying to move towards, and what I can supply, information I can look up to offer to help move that along. I've looked at other townships that are doing these things and people that have battled those battles, and I just wanted to get the discussion rolling and know that that's our hope and our dream of our small farm.
Where are you located?
Elk Lake Road.
Oh,
Right
okay.
down there.
Yeah.
Really in mind.
Yeah.
And
So-
what's your time frame that you're looking at?
As soon as possible, but I mean, I know it takes a long time. Ideally, it would take a long time, not only this side of it, but then we also have to figure out the manufacturing side of it, because it's a manufacturing licenses of who we would work with to use our apples and our fruit to get there. So that's a process as well. We know there's other things to talk about, parking, which has already been an issue that we already have a plan for this spring, which we're excited about to make that happen. But fall would be ideal. That's our huge season, and it would really help us financially if we could have it.
I had one question.
Yeah.
You said you don't need a liquor license, so there must be something in place for like these or the vineyards and stuff you can go to and they can have wine tastings. So that's a different license, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's called a small winemaker's license, but it covers wine, cider, beer, but it's through the state. So MDARD and the state licensing for liquor also issues this to us, but we have to you have to be signed off from the township.
It'd be helpful if you could kind of give us some direction on,
Yeah,
where.
who it comes from.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can print the forms
That's
out and show you.
It's up too, I would.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Antrim County would have an ordinance on that, wouldn't they? Or the township.
With Elton's, yes. Is it Elk Rapids
Be
Township?
something to look at, what they have.
Town line?
Town line.
Yeah.
Elk
I think
Rapids
it's Elk Rapids,
Township.
yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, they're Elk Rapids.
'Cause you have winery up there and you have the brewery there.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything
thank you.
else? Okay. Hey, Deb, I have a question on that. So obviously, if we don't have an ordinance, would they come for a special use permit or what?
A special use permit.
What is it?
Because we don't have any.
Let me come to the mic.
There's no.
Kind of what you did earlier today. They came in and they popped in earlier today and
Yeah.
inquired about this, and we went through they're in agriculture. That zoning ordinance does not allow for any type of wineries, cideries, alcoholic beverages. So what do you do when you don't have an ordinance? You come to the planning commission with an amendment, or you come to the planning commission and the board and say, hey, we would like to see you write an ordinance for us. Or they can come in and say, hey, we researched this, here's an amendment, we want to propose it to you. They pay a fee and they can propose it and you can review it, the board can review it. It's under the amendment section of the zoning ordinance.
So
So
it's an amendment to an allowed use, right?
it's not an allowed
No.
use, it's an
We can't-
amendment
we
to
can't
our
make-
current zoning ordinances.
But we
It's a
can't-
new ordinance.
We can't make it an allowed use.
No,
No.
you can.
No.
No,
Absolutely.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely we can.
You can amend your
Yeah.
agricultural ordinance. You could create a new ordinance.
Yeah.
It's up to you as the
Yeah, we
planning
don't have to
commission.
create a new ordinance. We can modify.
Verbiage.
Yeah.
We're amending our existing
We-
ordinance
yeah,
to
that's
clarify
still
that that's permitted and
Yeah.
under what conditions and parameters.
It's just making sure you think it through. Do you want it to be a special use? Do you want it to be permittable? They can just come in and say, here, I want to do this, and I can just sign off and say, go make a winery,
You make
go
your
make a
own
winery, you go make wine, you go make wine, and you go make wine.
Yeah.
You'd
Oh, it's
find
not
it to be a
easy.
special use, but
That easy.
but that's why it's would be an amendment. I mean, on top of it, your list of things that already need to be addressed within our zoning ordinances. Just one more thing.
Well,
That'd be nice to have that, I don't know what you call it, a winery, what you call it?
Small winemakers.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have that verbiage to look at, because that's probably what would actually just model it by
Do you have
that.
any
Could
questions?
you, I do, could
Yeah.
you, for next month, kind of, give us a plan on what steps we would have to take here? What would be the
It's actually
suggested steps?
it's actually in your zoning ordinance under amendments. There's an
Okay.
entire
It's
chapter.
simply a zoning amendment.
Yeah,
Okay.
the zoning amendment.
So
Yeah.
instead of rezoning property physically, the land from one category to another, you're changing the text of the zoning ordinance. You're changing the text instead of the map. So it's just, you're modifying, amending the ordinance. It's been amended 80 some times since
Yeah.
day
And so
one.
that would come to here and then it
Mhm.
would go to the board after here?
Right.
It would
Or would it be a
be just
public
like,
hearing?
just be
Yes.
like you were making a zoning change.
Okay.
Just
Say
like we went
wanted
through.
to create short-term rentals. Now you want to create wineries and cideries, and we were going to amend
Right.
the egg, except it wouldn't be initiated by the planning commission or initiated by the board. It would be initiated by someone in the community. Like someone in the community could come forward and say, here, I've got the perfect answer on how short-term rentals should be run in this township, which I actually know someone that said that to me. I think I was here a week. And she laid it all out for me and showed me exactly what she's doing today and how this could be just work perfectly. So, but there's people that, they want to initiate it from their perspective. That's allowed in our ordinance. So they have a copy of that amendment process and they're going to review what some other townships, what the verbiage has been,
Right.
and they can pay a fee, just like a special use fee or a site plan review, and they can come in and present it to get the amendment to the ordinance. You get the ordinance approved, which, takes 4 to 6 months to get through the process and hearings, and it would go through it just like any other notice.
It sounds like this is kind of what the master plans.
It
wants
does, and
to
it's
do to
it's
help
not
promote the
inconsistent
farmers,
with the
right?
master plan
Keep
at
the
all.
farmers here.
And if you start looking into GAMPs, and GAMPs is something that probably needs to be factored into our definitions on how GAMPs impacts all of our farmers in our community.
What is?
Generally accepted agricultural
Practices.
practices, yeah. So it's just one of those things, and GAMPS is reviewed every year as well. So, and that's just one more thing to get familiar with. Because we are primarily an agricultural community, and rec and water and R1. We got it all.
yes.
Oh, I got a question, Deb.
Sure.
Because we know that there's a want for this, or there's somebody in the community looking at this, is there anything stopping the planning commission from either picking this up themselves or asking the board for permission to look into this? Could it be dealt with that way too?
Mhm.
You could,
Yes.
absolutely.
Just want
but-
to make that clear to everybody.
Yeah. You don't always have to wait for the board, but what you've chosen to do is you don't want to invest a lot of time and effort and get shot down by the board after you've invested time and
Right,
effort.
Right, no, no.
And I know that's been past experience, but anything the board, the planning commission feels strongly about, they can always start drafting something.
You know, it'd be nice to have that link to that permitting process, if we could get that to Keith. And then maybe get that into the packet where we could all have a chance to look over. I think that'd speed things up as well, if that's okay with Keith.
Well, they could also do some of your homework for you. I've actually been recruiting these two to be on a planning commission because we may have an opening or two in the future. So not one or both of them, but you know, how do you get you got to get people involved in the community and involved in the process so that they understand how this flow is. But they could do a little of your homework for you and go look at, you know, how does it work at Town Line Cider? How does it look over Mission Peninsula? What are they doing in Leelanau? And pull in a few of these different ones and do the homework for you.
The question to Randy is, what would be the preferred way to go about this? Doing like maybe Mike had said here and just work on an ordinance and get it out, or taking a request for
An amendment and let them present an amendment because they would present the verbiage that they would like to amend in your agricultural.
And if we accept that amendment, does that allow anybody then, any farmer to do that same thing?
That's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you can't make it to one individual. It
Yeah.
would be consistent probably in the whole agricultural district. And so, I mean, if
Mhm.
there's material that they're willing to help, you know, get together for us, I mean, that would be great. I don't think.
Speed things up.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot on our plate, obviously, but it's not inconsistent with the master plan and it's not, you know, so.
And you may get to a public hearing and it gets shot down, or you may get a wave of support. And you may find that you got 5 other farmers in the community that are like waiting for this to happen and they're just, you know, ahead of the curve. So it's kind of like short-term rentals. How many are for it? How many are against? You know, it's with everything. You're gonna have people on both sides of it. And you just got to put the information out there and let people decide.
So this is really part of a larger trend though, where you get called value added or agriculture, where not only are you just growing the product, you're producing food from it. So you're taking it from beyond production to making it something that's consumable. And, you know, we're not the only ones dealing with that. Every other community in this area is as well. You know, so there's a lot of complexity to it, but if there's something simple that can be done quickly, then why not?
And the thing with GAMPs is if they're producing it on that property, they can sell it at a farm stand or
Yeah.
whatever. And
But we have to
almost-
understand what the GAMPs are. I mean,
Yeah.
it's generally accepted agricultural practices. It's not, it's basically, it started out, I believe, as a way of stopping farmers from getting sued. If they were following GAMPs, then they weren't a nuisance. That was really some of the initial purpose of GAMPs. And then they've expanded GAMPs to be almost, I think, many different kinds of agricultural operations, from everything from, you know, pigs and cows all the way up to, you know, fruit processing. So and everything in between.
I have something I'll give to Denise there on GAMS to have a book on it. About the legislation.
else?
Yes,
So
we
you
got
can
into
have a-
some discussion here and we still haven't finished our
Public comment.
public comment. So,
Yeah.
is there any other public comment? All right.
And please pardon me, I'm kind of shotgun a bunch of different topics. With your budget, your board can always adjust whatever you're doing at the budget it high, request high, and go from there. That's always going to be your best practice. You may want to get together with the new treasurer and see how they want it done. Previously, the chair just set a budget. I ran it past the PC and then submitted it myself. With definitions, just so you don't drive yourself nuts, we kept a running list of ones that needed to be done as we went through other ordinances. And then when we got 10 or 12 or whatever, or we do it by category and put it through, you may find that to be a more efficient way, because otherwise it's going to be one amendment, one, you know.
Yeah.
Get a compilation of ones that you've worked out and you find that you like to work with. As to the master plan, I don't want to see you get into any hiccups, and I don't know if it's relevant. Randy may know more. They may need to dig it up in the records. The Elk Rapids News was the newspaper of record per the Planning Commission. Unless you have adopted a different newspaper of record, you could potentially have an issue with not having noticed it in that paper as the paper of record in a timely manner for tonight's meeting. So just so you don't get 5 years down the road and someone contests your plan, your master plan, you might want to double check and or set a new resolution. Declare which one you're going to do if you're going to do both. You don't want to be dismissed on a technicality. Your email, we used to have a policy of having a list of individuals who wanted the packet sent by email, a link. Somewhere that got dropped. I don't know if that was a change from Lois or whatever, but I really want to encourage the PC, reinstate that. It really does help with communication. It's real easy to miss that it's the first Wednesday if you're not on the planning commission. And it just helps to have that come in and say, oh, planning commission meeting. And it gives people an opportunity to skim through the agenda and see if there's something pertinent to them specifically. So if you don't have plans already to do that, please reinstate it. I miss getting my packet, even though I'm not on the planning commission anymore, just to help me keep up to date with what's going on. As to the natural gas storage item that I mentioned, what I was talking about was storage facilities where they actually inject the natural gas back down into the rock structure. We are right on one of the largest rock structures that are ideal for that type of storage. And I did a lot of research on this for a personal project for a while back. There are 2 facilities that have been proposed on township borders of Whitewater Township that could potentially impact the township. You're right. You can't stop them. They're going to go in. There is no, we don't have any jurisdiction to say yes or no. What we do have is jurisdiction to say, we would like berms, we want some sound abatement, we want some light abatement, and that can have a huge impact on the neighbors because if it's going in and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And my last note, private roads, Mike had an excellent point. Make sure whatever happens to the best of the PC's ability, grandfather in entirety existing private roads. I was involved in writing all 3 of the versions that we sent to our board when they rescinded the last private road ordinance. I probably still have copies of that if you want. It is a far more complicated issue than it seems on its surface. We're not completely without protection right now. There are actually other ordinances in other county that do provide some coverage currently. I would be happy, Mike, to share that with you if you want to run back through some of the research, some of the data, and run back through. And I dig hard enough. I know I sent Rachel the copies. I probably still have copies of those other drafts because the planning commission wrote 2 and then I wrote a 3rd one with our ZA planning commission and a board rep. But I will tell you, the planning commission addressed it, but it can really only be done by general ordinance. We were only addressing it at the planning commission at the purview and request of the board to write them an ordinance to adopt. What we found was it was not appropriate to put a private road ordinance in the zoning ordinance. So unless you've had legal counsel or you find legal counsel that says otherwise, you may want to look and see if the board wants you doing this, and they may have already requested it. I don't know. But typically that's going to need to go back as a general ordinance, and that's not something the planning commission does unless it's by request. So
ask you about.
Yeah.
that, because that's, you mentioned you put 3 of them before in front of them and they rejected them all.
Yes.
So I was gonna ask that we get.
Yeah, so give me a call.
I will.
Great job, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Anybody on Zoom?
Anyone on Zoom that would like to make a public comment?
Okay,
No.
nobody?
No.
Okay, move on. Discussion for things to share with the next board meeting for you, Randy.
Okay.
You're gonna talk to them about MEDC
Yes, okay.
and will you ask them about what they're thinking about copies of the master plan?
In terms of the budget.
Yeah, so we know what the budget
okay.
for.
yes, I guess that could come up during the conversation about the ordinance.
And then I have on here about the winemakers, maybe some direction on whether they think we should just do an amendment or actually take this up.
Okay.
Is that
Um,
possible?
sure, I guess
When is your meeting?
Monday night.
I guess I see that issue as being with all the other ones on the list. I mean, I guess we're asking for a direction from the township board on short-term rental, or they're giving us direction on that, but those are things that are more that are potentially general ordinance oriented.
Right.
Because I mean, well, the short-term rental could be both zoning and a licensing mechanism, so that's why it's bleeding over into both of them. The issue on the winemaking thing, although I agree it's important, it's not. It's not common for them to say, look on that issue based on.
It's within our purview, but just do it.
Just do it.
My point, I guess, like, do we suggest them to come forward with an amendment? Or are we gonna just try to? Nothing that we can get something done.
Maybe it just be a big courtesy.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was trying to mince words, but we're not looking for permission necessarily to do that. I mean, we're the planning commission. We have a master plan. We have priorities. We know what we're supposed to know, exactly what the community needs. And we're hearing something about it, so add that to the list.
Then my feeling on that is that I don't think we should okay, an amendment if we're just gonna have to deal with it again later.
We shouldn't have to, because this is amendment, we're amending them, I mean, we're not making a new one.
Amending something, and
There
it's
is-
right in line with the master plan.
Right.
So we shouldn't really get a lot of feedback from them, but again, I think just a courtesy to say we've had some input from the public.
Okay.
The planning commission is.
Yep. We want a good exchange of information between the planning commission and the town board.
Yeah, and then
What we
that
heard
way,
tonight.
that way it's not a shock to them when they.
Right.
Hits
I'm-
their
okay.
desk.
I'm just trying to get it in my head.
Yeah.
Is do we go the route of amendment or do we go the route of
Yeah,
doing into ordinance?
I think
It's
it's amendment.
amendment.
it's all an amendment.
Amendments
okay.
are the
Everything is
easiest
an
way.
amendment from now on to the zoning ordinance.
Right.
Okay. So writing this amendment will become the new rule. Okay.
Yeah. So if I just volunteered to work on 2 topics and I don't have extra time now at all. So it would be more beneficial to I think to this commission if they did the research and presented it.
I agree totally.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't think we have the time to,
That's what I was trying to get out of it.
Yeah,
I guess.
okay, all right.
Just one footnote on
If we
this.
could
You
have
made me
that.
say it.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a fee schedule, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we actually charge for some things around here. So there's a fee schedule that if someone wants to initiate something from the public, there's a fee associated with an amendment that they're proposing to you. So they would actually come to you and make that proposal and pay a fee for your time to review it. Now, if it's something you want to initiate, that's on you. So it's kind of up to you on how you guys want to handle it.
Just a clarification, if they're the applicant though, then that makes them the author of the document and that makes them, it'll be easier if the planning commission initiated that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can work both ways, but if it comes from the public, it would rise up on your schedule a little quicker than we'll get to it down the line, just
So
from
we
a
can put it
priority.
on Next
No,
month.
because I think
FYI.
we can still kind of go through the same
Mhm.
process of some sort. They can still get the
Yep.
information to us,
Absolutely.
something like that. They just don't have to go through the fee-based schedule because we're doing it.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Some of the research.
Yeah,
Just helping with the research to help us along.
yeah. So it sound good? Right. Oh, so just bring up the wine thing with them, so that they're
Just bring some wine to the meeting.
Don't think they've made any yet, though.
Get them drunk, don't approve
Didn't
anything.
bring any samples, right? All right, I don't know if this lady's that stopped here talked about the bus stop issue. It's gonna come to the board or not.
I hope she does.
Yeah.
It sounds like she's gonna, she said.
If she doesn't, maybe you could bring it up that we listened to her and that, that does sound like an issue. I'm not sure what at this point we can do. She's talking to the sheriff's department and that, so.
That's
came
the
to-
road commission, I think, too. I think
I
the
think
sheriff's department can
I think
get
that
in.
the school system needs to be talked
I
about.
think-
Yeah.
about
I think
Where
sheriff
that bus stop is at, maybe. I don't-
That's what I was
can
thinking.
sort that out.
They need to get one of the cameras on that particular bus aimed in the right direction. And it's an ongoing thing.
That's right. Hopefully you could get a
um,
number.
Have confidence in the sheriff's department that they will probably.
She came
Take
to
care of
the,
that.
she came to at least one of the workshops and she spoke about that in the group that I was in, yeah.
Okay.
So it's been going on for a while.
School bus is supposed to stop.
Yeah, but the cars are supposed to stop too,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, the car, that's what I mean, the cars are
Yeah.
supposed to stop, and I don't. I'm having a hard time visualizing that a car would come off to the right and go between the bus and the
Where
the
kids-
car, and that isn't.
I don't know why the bus driver leave that much room so the guy could do it.
I wouldn't, I sure as heck.
That doesn't make sense.
As a cop, I've seen it.
And you gotta have your car back when you let your kid
They
off
can get- they
close
just
to the
have one
bus.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense that there would be room to go between them. I can't.
Like
visualize
he said,
that.
there's a lot of jerks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so, I just want to bring up the fact that Al, this might be your last meeting, Al?
No, till
No.
April.
Till April. you're
Yeah.
right.
Till April, so.
All right.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I had a chance to
Yeah,
say thank you if it was the last one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here to April.
you have to throw the party.
Yeah.
And then have some wine.
Yeah, so that's a new rule here. You throw your own.
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah,
Right up.
yeah.
All right. But thank you, Al.
Okay.
Appreciate your time. Does anybody else have any other discussion or comments?
I just have a question. Was the annual report submitted to the township board?
No, it was not. We were going
There was an
to,
edit to it, right?
yeah, we we're
Okay.
gonna talk about the training.
No, that, our annual report, I placed, the zoning administrator wanted some more stuff, wanted more, acknowledgement on it, so I took that pie sheet that, and attached that and then sent that to Keith, so.
You did.
Shortly after the other meeting.
All
So,
right.
so after he reviews it, he can forward it to the board.
We did already, did we approve that? I thought we approved that with.
We
those-
did.
With
you
those
put through
changes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So-
I will send that on to Randy then.
Or Linda, I would.
Do I send it right to Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know where she is on the agenda for the meeting coming up. For it might have to go into next month. I don't know.
That's my fault. I guess I didn't see it. Sorry, Al.
And what I'll do is I'll make sure. I still have that. I'll make sure I sent it. Yeah, you're using the .gov one now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I can resend it. It's no problem.
Okay, if you would just.
Should still have that.
Because it might not, it might be one of my old ones that I got rid of.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anything else?
I'm gonna make a note of that.
All right, Deb, I guess you want to review this, court decision on the township planning? That was made?
Yeah, once a month I get an update on any court cases that go before the state. And I took my zoning class back in, I don't know, 15, 16, somewhere in there. And so once a month I get an update on appeals and different things that are going on. And there just happened to be a court case that got appealed to the Michigan Supreme Court. It basically said, so a planning commission denied a special land use permit. They discussed it amongst themselves, but they didn't vote on each of their findings of fact, and I just went through this with our ZBA last week. So when you do a finding of fact, you start stating facts about the property. And when you do those findings, you vote on each finding. And this particular case, they just denied this special use permit. They didn't they discussed it, but they never identified that listing of findings of fact. They didn't vote on them and be in agreement about them, and they denied it. The applicant who was denied did not appeal it to their zoning board of appeals. They took it straight to circuit court. That judge said, yeah, we agree with the township. Well, they appealed that decision to the appeals court of Michigan, and the judge at the appeals court of Michigan threw it back to the planning commission and said, you did a poor job of your findings of fact. You should have explained to the folks, they should have gone to the zoning board of appeals and basically sent it back to them to do their job properly. So I just wanted, and I don't know what happened in this copy, but there's a lot of letters that are all missing, jumbled. But basically, you got to have competent material, substantial evidence that's on the whole record. And it just gave an example, and it's listed with the Michigan bar. I think Reen asked me for the link too. You can type it in, or I can send you the link if you want to see the entire case. But I thought it was a really good example of something that went all the way up to the Supreme Court of Michigan and got pushed back down to the Planning Commission to redo their job. So just something to be aware of, that, you know, this stuff, I don't know how it ever got through the circuit court and got to the appeals and got approved, but it doesn't give me a lot of confidence at that level if it came all the way back to the start. So anyway, but if anybody wants a better link to that, it's out on the website. You can click on it, or I can get it to you. And just a comment, Kim, I've never seen a list of names that we needed to send out the packet to of people outside of the planning commission members, because we posted on the website. So if that was something that was done by somebody in the past, they did not share any of that information, or nor an emailing list of any kind.
Whether or not it still exists, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
That was a longstanding practice up until it was not the chair.
I don't know when that changed, or I've never heard of it since I've been here in April, and I've never seen such a list.
So I have gotten them in the past, but they stopped for some reason. So I don't know what happened with that list. Or
I mean, I'm not a computer guy, but.
I don't know who the sender of it was.
I'm not sure.
Oh, so it wasn't sent by Bob Hall.
No.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
But
I mean, so nothing got,
the planning commission sent out, we had a dedicated email list of people who have requested to receive a link to the packet.
Okay. well, I never knew or heard about that. So
Yeah,
if somebody has some list out there, some master list that needs to get it, I don't know who wants to take on that responsibility, but when the packet gets done, you know, I know it's on the website, so that's where I've always posted it, and I've never heard that from anyone else since I've been here, but not everything was shared with me either.
Places called subscribers that receive meeting packets.
And some people have like constant contact where you can get information out. And I don't think we've done anything like that here. And that might be something to think about, creating an email list within the township, you know, where people can, you know, get distribution, you know, little updates on things that are going on. Even if it's you know, there's a road closure or an accident on 72.
Treasurer has a list.
Yeah.
They did.
But if there's a master list, I don't know about it, and so I don't know who would be the one initiating that to be sent. But if that's something I need to do, someone would have to get me all those email addresses, because I don't have them. Or the chair, or whoever, I don't know. Okay,
Is there like an optimal time? Because I printed out the packet when it first got posted, but the minutes for the last meeting were not in it. And so I didn't know when to go back to get those. So I'm just wondering, you know, do you wait? Does everybody wait until?
there was there was a delay in getting the minutes. It was,
Yeah, no, and
but-
that's fine. I'm just wondering, like, how do I?
it
make
it
sure
didn't get
that I got
updated
it?
until Tuesday, and
Okay,
there
I
were
wanna, like,
multiple
make
things
sure
that
to
needed to be updated.
Right, and that's why we set the deadline for,
At noon,
at noon.
on the 25th of
Okay, so
February,
that's-
for everything to be in.
Everything's done by then, the
Yeah.
package gets done and
Yeah.
posted by that Wednesday.
Yeah. We're trying. So.
No, I was,
Yeah.
I didn't,
We didn't have minutes to put in, so Yeah.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else? Can I suggest a motion for adjournment?
Yes, I make the motion that we adjourn, the shortest meeting we've had in recent times.
Okay, motion by Jacobson.
I'll second.
Second by Roll.
Oh, and do I need a
Roll call.
roll call? Oh, my gosh. Sorry, I was packing up here.
I would say that, but we couldn't say that we had to have a roll call vote for.
I know, I thought, yeah, I thought we were, but
No.
we'll do it.
Oh, we don't?
Yeah, we didn't,
Okay,
we didn't.
so just all in favor?
You can just
Any
adjourn.
opposed?
You can just adjourn. You just adjourn. Yeah, I thought
At 9:40.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you can call it to order and adjourn.
Okay.
So,
Let me see.
now, what do I do here?
Pull this back up.
Oh, give me problem.
What are we going to?
It was 108 pages.
Yeah, where is my-
So I got it.
You haven't walked.
Different to get on the internet.